Keegan can get up here and talk. The way he talks, he can talk at the job. Listen to me, Theo. The way he talks, he can talk at the job. Now listen, shout out to Sid, because I know he want to coon all day. Check me out, Theo. That was passed where black women could wear their natural hair to the workplace. Tell me that black people don't have to code switch at work to make white people feel more comfortable. Huh? And you still won't get the promotion. Not over the white girl. Not over the white man, you won't get the promotion. Even if you well behaved, you still a nigga in the coop. That's all I'm saying.
Go.
Cat Williams said if it's nappy, white folks aren't happy. Go ahead.
If Sid caught that straight, he needs to respond.
Yeah.
I mean, he called it but go ahead. Everybody's got a code switch, bro. When you go to work, they make you wear a uniform that they dictate you have to wear. Not everybody wants to put on their hot dog hat, when they're working at Happy Hot Dog World, and look like a goofball. But everybody's got a code switch. You have to adhere to the uniform and the rules of how that company wants you to dress. So it's not just black people, bro. It's everybody.
Bro, I'm not talking about code switch like the outfit. Listen, what I'm saying is, you talk from the stage.
allowed to speak too.
Go ahead. Hey, yo, Sid. I'm saying the way Keegan talks on the stage, he can be confident enough to talk at work like that. I noticed that a lot of black people, when they go to work, they feel like they got to put on a white voice. Because the truth is, if they talk black or more urban, the white person is going to feel less comfortable. Sid, listen to me, bro. We gotta be real at some point. I never worked a real job in my life, Steve, but I see it. I see how my girl on the west side of Atlanta, Bankhead, she gotta pick up the phone and talk like a white girl. She really don't talk like that, my dog. I see how the Crown Act says the black girl can't, she needed a law to wear her natural hair to work, see? Like, it's a problem going on outside, see? So I get what you're saying, brother. I love you. My bad. I shouldn't be disrespecting you. Attack the point, not the person.
Wait, Tori wants to get in there too, CO. Tori wants to get.
And then I'll go after Tori.
Yeah, so I heard the person say, is this a mock conversation? We went back and forth. We've tried to spread the back around. I'm sure that's what Mojo and JB would want. Hey, Tori, I did want to respond to them because you did mention me, but I'll let you go ahead because I think you got a question. No, Tori, go ahead and can you make your submission?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tori. We want to hear you. You got a beautiful voice. Your voice sounds better than Theo's voice. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Tori.
Say, other than I know you weren't speaking to the uniform of code switching, right? It's about the mere uncomfortableness that white people have with black existence, right? And that's what I think they're speaking to, King, especially in the workplace.
Yeah.
Right? You as a black woman cannot be quiet around a bunch of white women because they see you as a threat. Oh, why isn't she talking, right? There have been women who were wrote up in HR, right, because she's too quiet, right? The manager said to her, how about you be more relatable? How about you, talk a little bit more? Why? Why does my existence make you uncomfortable, right? And so I think that's kind of what you're speaking to about the having impulses to appease and please them. Fuck that. I don't want to talk today, and that's just what the fuck it is. But this is what black women and black men go through in the workplace, having to deal with white women, especially, right? I think that white women are the most exhausting group of women when it comes to working with them, and it's unfortunate.
And I'm sure, Tori, you don't mean. Hey, and Tori, I'm sure you don't mean every white woman, but in the context of who you're describing.
Majority. I'll say majority.
See, here he goes trying to clean it up. See, you the problem. See, let her cook. You trying to clean it up and shit.
No, hold on a second, though. King, I'm
playing with you, man.
I know you are, but let me underscore this point on the serious note, man. I'm not trying to be funny or nothing, though. And I told one of the people that me and you just talked about this at one point, King, we'll get into some offline about this, man. But we literally, and sometimes people might disagree with me. We have to make sure that we understand, especially when we're talking about political politics and policy and government and regulations and laws. We have to understand that, man, it's a real numbers game. We live in a representative democracy such that when you send your representative to Congress, they have a vote. And these things matter, who they choose as judges, who they choose to run different departments, right? Who they choose to be the head of law enforcement, so forth and so on. So I think we have a responsibility not to continue alienating people who are allies to us. So for whatever it's worth, you know what I'm saying, white women aren't my issue. There's a certain mindset within that culture that might be socialized a specific way. So I just don't like saying stuff as white people this or black people this. So I'm gonna push back on Keegan anytime he says black people. And I have to push back on us when we describe stuff as white people. White people, you said it yourself. That's not my problem. I rock with white people. It's just people with the mindset that's Keegan that are unrepentant and unredeemable sometimes that don't want to evolve when they hear the new information. Those are the people who I have a problem with. I have a problem with ignorant ass people. So if you think that a black woman coming into the workplace speaking a language and wearing her hair is inconvenient and uncomfortable for the workplace, then I got a problem with your ignorant ass, whatever color you in. That's my point. Who's next?
Wait, hold on, Theo. I think Craig wants. Wait, who's that? Mrs. Clark. Okay, hold on. Hold on. I know Craig wanted to go, but let me just say this before we give it to Craig and then Mrs. Clark. Let me just say this really quickly to Tori's point, because I saw some people in the chat kind of mocking, making fun of what she said. She's spot on. As silly and as ridiculous as that may have sound to some people, every black woman who's worked in corporate America would likely agree with this. We've all been on that receiving end, including myself, where you come to work and do your job, and when it's time for your performance report, you're hit with, are you angry? Are you mad? Because you don't talk. And they don't mean we don't talk in the sense that we're not a team player, right? We're team players. We know how to coexist with our colleagues and contribute to the assignments and the tasks. But the fact that we sit there at our desk and silently do our jobs, and I've been working since I'm 14. When I became, moved to LA and started working in the corporate world at various studios and production companies, every time I had a performance report, high praises for my job and what I was doing, but I was always hit with, what's wrong? You're so quiet. And of course I can't say bitch because I'm doing my work. What the fuck you want me to do? There's this idea that for some odd reason it's threatening for a black woman to just sit in her peace, don't be a problem at work, just do the job they hired you to do, and go home. If we're not talking and cackling and at the water cooler gossiping, then there's a problem. Then they have to make a note of that in the performance review. And CO, to your point, I know he's on the phone, I can't say that this is a white issue, but all my bosses have been whites, and they're the ones who bring it up. So, I'm not going to blame white people, but they're the seniority. They're the ones, overseeing these positions and these performance review talks, and they're the ones who are like, listen, we've observed that you're not talking and you're not kiki and kaka and TT, and what's wrong, sis? You got an attitude? Is there a problem? No, bitch. I'm just here to work. Pay me my money, sign that check so I can go home. Thank you very much.
Point taken.
Go ahead.
No, you got it. Who is it? Craig, then?
Yeah.
Craig, then Miss Clark, I think?
Yeah, I think T wanted to speak before me.
Okay,
and
Craig.
I saw her come off the mic first, so I want her to
Craig,
speak
then
and then I'll speak after.
Miss Clark. Let's
No, you good, girl. You got it, girl.
Okay.
go ahead, Craig.
Okay. So yeah, I definitely do agree with Nye, because I definitely hear that a lot. I think two things kind of can be existent at the same time. I know with that bill that did pass in California, that was a big thing. I'm from California, so I definitely remember how big that actually was. So that definitely is true. I just think that for some people to kind of talk about corporate America, and they said admittedly that they've never had a real job, I don't think that some of these people should be talking about what goes on in corporate America when you've never even worked a real job before, because you're not even affected by that. Like you're not affected by that. If you've even had a real job, you would even have to understand that when you go to a real job, you can't conduct yourself a certain way. You have to fit within the norms of that job, and and you can't act the way how you would typically want to act.
Craig, who are you?
Yes. Now,
who are you referring to with the real job part?
King. He said in his rant that he had never worked a real job.
Yeah, I don't think you understand the context of what King was saying. He's speaking something different, but go ahead with your point.
Yeah, and I would like to respond, but I want you to respond for me. So
go ahead, Craig.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I don't know, when someone said they never worked a real job and they talk about what's going on in a job world, it's just kind of fascinating.
Hey, Craig, you're missing the point. Craig King is a boss. He's hired people. So he's just saying he has to work in a traditional job in a traditional way, but he's hired people. He's probably full-time working twice as much as you. But go ahead with your...
No, not twice as working as me. I travel for a living. I travel for my job.
Oh, dude, no disrespect, man. Just
So I would like.
Yeah, because I definitely do very great. I travel. On top of that, I'm a military veteran. There's a lot of different things about me that I actually do.
Thank you for the
Yeah. So I mean, I would never be able to be in the same position as a king.
Hey, Craig, let's give you 30 seconds.
No, but I'm done. But go ahead.
Okay, so
he was a stewardess until he said he was in the military. That's much.
Yeah, and thank you for your service. So I don't have to smoke crack to know the effects. I find it funny that the black men that have worked traditional jobs will sit here and coon and act as if the black women are wrong that speak about their experience in corporate America. Even if I did work in corporate America, I wouldn't be a woman in corporate America. But I've been with, but I'm with a woman that's in corporate America. And I empathize with what she goes through. So I get on the stage and I talk about what she went through. And even when the sister began to speak, they laughed at her. She told her experience. Surely she truly goes to work. Surely Nye worked in corporate America. But even as the black queens sit on their throne and begin to speak, look how you discredit them and prove their point. Black men, we have to wake up too. Because you work there, but you won't talk about what goes on, will you? Because you don't have the heart. But shout out to you and thank you for your service.
And I think that
I said that black women didn't go through that?
No, hold on a second. Craig, hold on a second. Let's go to Miss Clark. We'll come back to you, Color. Go ahead, Miss Clark.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you hear me clanking, it's because I'm cooking like a mid-afternoon breakfast with family. It goes beyond just corporate America too. I was in the military. Quite literally, when I first got to my first duty station, when I did my 6-month evaluation for my PTR, like just getting there, that little initial thing, I got docked on my ETR because I was not social. And quite literally, my sergeant stood there and said, it's not that you're not nice. It's not that you're not professional. You're an amazing worker. It's just, you do this thing where you come in and you do your work, you speak to people. He was like, don't get me wrong, you speak to people, but you just do your work and you go home. And I'm like, yes, what else do you want me to do? And he's like, well, I just feel like, you could be more giddy, more social. And I'm like, so you want me to focus on interacting with people instead of getting the work done? And he's like, no. I still want you to, just make time. Like, have conversations with people. Like, ask about people's families. Talk to people about your family. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna, I don't know you guys. Like, granted, yes, I've been here 6 months, but I don't know y'all like that. I'm only in here to work and get my stuff done and go home. It goes well beyond just the corporate. Even when I first got my first job as a cashier and I was working, one of my evaluation EPRs, they still said the same thing. Oh, you're great. You scan people out. Your scan times are good. We haven't had a single complaint about your customer service. You're really nice. You're really attentive. It's just, you don't talk much. You kind of just sit and look at people. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm trying to figure out who y'all are or what you're doing. Like, this is a common thing that black women go through. Like, it is something that black women go through where even if, like I said, you can be doing your job to the utmost of your capabilities, they'll still want you to be social. I could be sitting and doing my work, and I distinctly remember times my sergeant would come by and touch me and be like, hey, are you okay? And I would be like, yeah, what's going on? And he'd be like, oh, no, it's just, you're just doing your work. And you're just quiet. And I'm like, yeah, I have headphones in. I'm focusing on getting things done. Is that a problem? And he's like, no, it's just, I would have swore you were mad. And I'm like, why would you think that I'm mad? And he was like, well, you're not talking to people. And I'm like, okay, but why would you think I'm mad? I would ask him, is my face tuned up in a weird way? And he's like, no, it's just, you're not talking to people. Like, that was like a literal experience of mine. And it happened so many times.
And Ms. Clark,
So,
I could really quick. Next point. Hold on 1 second. I thank you for your service to the country, Mrs. Clark. I'm so mad that you have to deal with that. about what she was doing while she was working on defending the country, and what would make somebody put a thumbs down on that? Does that person want to speak? Is that person on stage?
Well, look at the remarks in the comments too. It's quite jarring. You know, it's black women are damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. If we're quiet at work and just do our job, then it's a problem. And if we speak, then you're too loud and you have an attitude. It's so strange. Someone in the chat said headphones at work is ghetto. Listen, sometimes you have a job where you have to put on headphones so you can concentrate, especially if you're editing, if you're writing, if you have to transcribe something. Sometimes you're trying to drown out the noise in the background. So now, if your job requires you to put on headphones and you're black, then it's ghetto.
Yeah, and I did transcription. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I work histology. One of the parts of that is transcribing. And that's what the doctors, when they go and they sit at the growth station and they say, hey, you know, today I got a GI specimen that measures 4.3 by 3.2 centimeters. It's easier to have headphones in where you can concentrate on what they're saying than the grainy ass fucking speakers and, you know, the goddamn processor beeping every 20 minutes. Quite literally, they allow us to wear headphones to transcribe. So it's like one of those things where it's like, you're doing your job and they'll come over and they'll be like, hey, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. I'm just transcribing Dr. Bronner's shit that he grossed this morning. Like, what's going on? Like, this is, and even in the chat, and I have no problem calling names. Hold on, where are you at? Self-control was like, if you don't want to do that, then work at home. If you don't want to interact, work a job at home. My guy, not every job requires you, like, this is what we say when we say damned if you do, damned if you don't, but these are the people that you work with. Hopefully this person isn't somebody's supervisor. Because as we're saying, it's not that the job's not getting done. It's not even that the job's not getting done well. You're putting out immaculate work, but because they feel like you should be performative for them, it's a problem.
And you know what's also interesting, and I hate to even being this person, but it kind of reminds me as well about black men not telling black women to smile, right? Because the sheer uncomfortableness of your, I guess, just bland face in public is uncomfortable. So I kind of can see where they may have gotten it from, because it all just brought up these different things. Like, I deal with that as well. It's like, you know, black men, you know, have to smile, and, you know, you just not even probably having an attitude. You just probably thinking about something that is showing on your face. And so I think all that shit kind of plays and goes to.
Wait, hold on, really quickly.
Hold on 1 second. Let's get a cue. Go ahead.
Let me just say really quickly, why do we have, to a point that was raised, why do we, when we come to work, and this is for everybody, black, white, male, female, when we come to work, why do we have to personalize our experience with our coworkers? Why do I give a damn what anybody's personal life is like? Because you know what that does? That opens the door for them now to expect you to overshare details about your personal life. And you know what that does? Leads to office gossip. And you know what that does? Let something about your personal life get back to the manager or HR, then you're distracting, you're disruptive, and you probably will be out the door. People are too judgmental. Why do we have to overshare or even pry about people's personal life at work? Just like they say, keep religion out of the workspace, keep politics out of the workspace. Why do I now have to come to work, do my job, and then check in with my coworkers' psyche in their personal life? Are you okay? What was your life like? What did you eat last night? Where kids going to school? Did you go to church? Nobody gives a fuck. No, and everybody in the chat who thinks, y'all don't care. Come up on the stage and tell us the last time you went to work and started a Q&A session with your coworker about their personal life. You don't do it.
Well, here's the thing.
What's wrong with
You please, and Leroy to the queue. Thank you.
Who wants to jump on the queue?
Yeah, Leroy.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I go after Leroy?
Hold on a second. Let's make sure that we're respecting the ladies while we're on this point. Was there any lady that didn't get an opportunity to add on?
Somebody said quickly, what's wrong with being personal? Describe personal. If I come into the job and say, hey, so-and-so, good morning, how you doing? Did you catch that movie over the weekend? Right? Did you watch the season premiere of that new show? What did you think of the score of that game last night? Above and beyond that, what are we defining as personal in the workspace?
Right. Basically exposing yourself, your truth. They really what they want to know if the stereotypes are true. They want to know what's going on. Are you a single baby mama? Are you struggling? Because then when they know all that information, they become passive aggressive. oh, do you need anything? I know you have the kids. And it's just like, no, we're actually well taken care of. You know, they start with this passive aggressive overanalyzing shit. They bring you shit to work, donating canvas. You know, it's weird how they treat you. You know, so yeah, they just want you to overexpose yourself. It's the prying into like. They want to know, like how Tori said, is your husband being faithful to you? You're not ranting about how horrible or anything about your life. If you come to work and you don't really express or tell intimate details of your life, then they're like, why are you not being personal? Because quite literally, like I said, even in my military, when I was in the military, I gave up no personal information about my family. Yeah, you knew I had a mom. Yeah, I would speak on my sister, but that's it. You didn't know anything about the woes that was going on. The most you knew was when my grandmother died, and I said, hey, I got to take off because my grandmother died. I'm not about to tell you, oh, my grandmother's in the hospital because she has 6 hernia sacks and stuff. Like, no.
I love that the people in the comments are triggered because Black women are speaking.
Shout out to Black women speaking. They so beautiful.
Shout out to Black women.
And they got
them people.
They're so triggered that Black women are speaking and speaking about their lived experiences, especially on the workplace. Shout out to being triggered.
Shout out to Trigger. And welcome back to I want to say happy birthday to this Clubhouse birthday show.
Thank you. You can shout out my Cash App and my body.
Look at that. Shout out to the Cash App and my Jake Brooklyn.
I was gonna say though, Mrs.
And see, that's why we have to go and
Hold on a second. In the spirit of JB's Cash App and his ladies honor, let's make sure we get one mic. Who's speaking?
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick, Mrs. Clark, if more employees were just like you, they shut the fuck up, came to work, minded their own business, and did their work, I think a lot of these places of employment will be will be way better. So you would get promoted if you worked for my bank.
Can we get some of these ex-cons off the stage? I'd like to say a few things. Clean up the stage.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Everybody mute up. I haven't said a word to you, fucking retard. But you know what? I'm not only throwing you out, I'm gonna block you, you fucking dummy. Back to you guys.
Can I go next?
Yo, it's funny.
May I go next?
I didn't want to absolutely. Go ahead, bro.
Go ahead. Is that Leroy didn't get a voice? As long as the ladies have finished saying what they were saying, I thought that point was important. So did I'm sure Sid King and everybody else moderated on stage. Including JD and Ojo.
Hold on, see, before we get long, what was the brother that said I never worked before? I couldn't speak on it. When the sister spoke, and she's been in the service and everything, I didn't hear a rebuttal of what she was saying. Is he still here? See him?
I don't even remember who that was.
Oh, okay. I don't see him.
It was Craig. I don't see him in the stage.
Oh, he left. Oh, okay. I appreciate that.
Hey, Leroy, did you have something to add to the combo, my brother? I hear you, King.
Yes, what I'd like to do at this moment was give a nod to our ancestors. I made an agreement with my ancestors that I would join the universe in making them so proud for what we have accomplished and for what we have become. Juneteenth started in 1865, but in the 1800s, we had tons of Black businesses flourishing that service white and Black people. Let's go back to 1672. During the period of revolts, we know in Virginia that fugitive slaves and small armed bands raided nearby towns hoping to convince others to join them. 1712 in New York City, slave plot rebellions. Stony South in New York. Why is that important? Because Abraham Lincoln said, I'm only going to free the slaves in the state of rebellion. If I didn't have to free one slave, I wouldn't. Let's go to 1829. Education was fed by slave owners because slaves might read of their natural right. You see, for me this day, I celebrate the Black woman and the Black man because I want you to know one thing. Don't ever be ashamed of your scars that life has left with you. A scar means the hurt is over and the wound is closed. It means you conquered the pain, learned a lesson, grew triumph to be proud of. Don't allow your scars to hold you hostage. Don't allow them to make you live your life in fear. You can't make the scars in your life disappear, but you can change the way you see them. You can start seeing your scars as a sign of strength and not pain. Stay brave, stay fierce, and remember, your spirit is already free. I just wanted to express that from the sentiments of the ancestors. I want to acknowledge them, acknowledge ancestors in each and every one of you. And that is the way I want to continue to celebrate Juneteenth. Let's go back and recall a historical moment, like in 1869, where they has, when education in 1869, there has been great progress, right? For the whole colored population called colored people back then, right? So you see in 1869, we were progressing in education. Schools were flourishing in 1864. Come on now. Shit, fuck these people, man. We got so much to live for.
Hey, for whatever it's worth, good and bad and different, let that breathe before y'all put the hate back on it. We're allowed to celebrate our day, and that was such a beautiful message. Let that breathe. And church me, amen for that, though. And if I could, after you make that pit stop, pass Brother JB's cash app, because people committing their time, and time is money. Thank you for hosting the room, JB. Thank you for your addition to me learning who you are, Mojo. But also, after you guys make that pit stop by his cash app, man, stop by and Google Leroy Campbell, man, because hey, don't put me out there, Leroy, but Leroy, I have his art on my wall. He's one of the most prolific artists of the culture of the world, and his art speaks to this existence and this reality. And I just think he's been an incredible human being, just through and through.
Wait, is that the Leroy that's on stage?
The Leroy that's on stage is a world-renowned...
I had no idea. I've spoken to this man 50 times. Good dude. Good
yeah, Leroy is nothing but the truth. JB, I literally have his art on a wall in one of my rooms and have met him several times on a cruise that we frequented, for whatever that's worth, man. So, mad respect for you, Leroy. Hey, Leroy, I'm going to inbox you. I actually tried to find an old number that I had and text you when I saw you on the app last time, brother. But thank you for being who you already are, always been, man, my brother. You know what I'm saying?
Take your love and blessings, man. That's what we do.
All right, say less. All right, anybody else want to add to the conversation in the spirit of Leroy? Can we have a 5-minute moratorium in this room on hate and just speak on anything that could be productive or positive about this day that he just spiritually uplifted? Anybody want to add that before y'all jump back into the traditional hate mantras and all that kind of stuff?
With what he said was...
Right. Go ahead.
And I'd just shout out to everyone related to, and also the people of Jamaica, just in general, and here's to getting rid of the monarchy and getting in a proper republic, hopefully by the end of next year. And thank you so much, everyone. Everyone's so lovely in this room. It's really, really nice.
But I'm the loveliest.
And yeah, otherwise, power to the people, I guess, yeah.
I would like to respond to Miss Clark because I was one of the people that reacted with the laugh emoji. And it wasn't because I was laughing at your story, Miss Clark. It was because it deeply connects with me. Because they're telling you at your work, like, oh, you need to have conversations with people, interact with people more, delve into their life, so to speak. I found that hysterical because at work with where I work at, I work security, and they're telling us, like, they'll threaten our jobs if we walk and talk too much. If we walk and talk to each other too much, they'll threaten our jobs. And I'm just thinking, wow, look at the contrast between these two. Like, they're kind of getting on her case just because she's not talking.
Hey, you broke up, Marquis.
Marquis, you're in the Matrix, Marquis.
a second to see if he jumps back in. Marquise, the place we lost you is that they do something to you when when they're not talking. I think you were going to say when you got. Go ahead, hey Marquise.
Yeah,
we lost you at when you were talking at working what they do.
Oh, did that cut out?
Yeah, cut out.
Start again.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, what I was saying is, like, it's the respect of what you're putting into the company as compared to the respect that they're giving you, and the respect and that same work ethic that they're doing, that you like, that they're expecting you to do. If they're telling you to interact, and yet if you don't, what's going to happen, right? Well, why? Why would I want to interact if I don't even know who this person is? So to go, you're living by the right ethic. Go to work, do what you need to do. Even if you have the time, do a little extra work, but you don't need to be placing your life, on the platter for everybody else like that. And I'll land my plane then.
Yeah, Marquise, and I get what you're saying, because I think people are taking the fact that I'm saying that I'm not talking much as being antisocial, and that's the thing that I don't like. Is because it's like this label's getting stuck on people because they don't want to talk. That doesn't mean you're not antisocial. Like, we gotta stop that, and that happens to Black women a lot, especially when we speak. Oh, you're not fun to get along with. Oh, you're antisocial. No, I'm very social. I'm just not giving you everything. It's like there's no balance. Like, I don't think that the people understand that there are people who can operate in balance. I can be social. I can be nice to you at work. We can have our conversations. But guess what? When these specimens got to get cut, when they bring that damn leg down from the OR, I can't talk to you anymore. I got to focus on getting this stuff grossed in. I got to make sure that everything was severed correctly. I got to make sure the transcription gets in. There's a time and place to ha-ha and kiki, and then there's a time and place when not to. And I think that people have forgotten that, especially in workspaces. Because don't get me wrong, it wasn't just, like, that's why I said it's not just corporate. It wasn't just the military that I experienced that. Even when I got into the outside world, people would be like, oh, when you do your work, you just lock in. It's work. Why would I want to get distracted, especially dealing with patient care? Like, that's the one place where I would think that I need to focus the most, at least. Hey, I'm not going to talk to you while I'm doing this goddamn FNA, and I got these needles in my hand. I'm going to focus on doing what I got to do. Now, once it's done, and we sit in the break room, yeah, I'm a kiki with you. We can talk about, you can tell me about your kid's soccer game and everything. You can show me the pictures. But right now, while I'm at work, when I got these special things, when I'm sitting up here cutting on this microtone and I'm at this embedding station, I ain't got time to talk to you.
I can't remember the exact word, but there is this kind of it's always been there, especially with Black women, but it's just this kind of this weird, disgusting kind of thing where I think you're expected to be, and I can't think of an easier word, but I guess digestible and easy for the person. The other people, I'm not saying.
Hey, Alaska, can you explain that, please?
I'm trying to think. Like, it feels like it's always one thing. If it's not one thing, it's another thing. Like, your hair, or your makeup, or your, it's just, how can I, and there's a specific word for it. I'll think and come back, sorry.
And, like, the funny thing about it is, I'm not even getting into the situations with my hair and stuff that I've experienced in the military. Like,
exactly. That's what,
you guys can look at me. Imagine being told that the brown makeup that I'm wearing is too brown for my skin. Like, this is the shit that I've heard. Oh, I see your makeup in your on the liner of your hat. And I'm like, yeah. Why is it brown? What do you mean, why is it brown? Well, why is it brown? I don't know, Susan.
Who's asking
Do you not see me? Like, this is literal conversations I've had. Oh, you can't wear you can't wear brown lipstick. Your lipstick has to match. You can't wear brown lipstick, but it has to match your lips.
I've been told that you can't. I've been told I can't wear. I've been told to wear makeup, and then I wear lip gloss or whatever, and then I get told it's too much makeup, even though I'm wearing other people.
Girl, I remember I was working at a nursing home, and I mocked my manager like she was white, right? And I mocked her like I sounded just like her. She fired me. She was so pissed off. Yeah, I don't
don't take shit, okay? I'm from up north, so I don't know. I don't do no fucking yes. Sorry. And yeah, I'm gonna mock your ass. Like, yeah, now what? But like, there's so much that I can get into. Like, even when I was in the military, even when they did the thing where they revamped the jurisdiction for your hair, like where they said, okay, look, you guys can wear braids, and when you wear braids, they have to be a certain length and size. There was a lady on our base who was an officer's wife. She was a black woman, and she used to braid every black woman's hair on base because she braided it within regulation. Still got shit for it. I remember one time my supervisor told me that, my braids are nice, but they could be a bit more professional. And I was like, okay, how can I make them more professional? Couldn't tell me. And I'm like, you say my hair could be a bit more professional. I'm asking you, how can it be more professional? But you can't tell me how it can be more professional. It's like crazy shit that we would deal with. And then he was like, I feel attacked. What do you mean you feel attacked? You said that my hair was not professional enough. When I asked for ways to improve it, or what are you seeing that's making my hair unprofessional, you can't tell me. Like, this is shit we deal with. Exactly. And then when we try to act like them, they get upset too. Like, it's like, we can't win. Like, what do you want? What the fuck do you want?
Hey, ladies,
that's because it's tough for white people to exist around melanin. I'm gonna just be honest, man.
That's bullshit.
Even the frequencies, like black intellects, black music, black rhythm, black culture, all of it. You know what I mean? It triggers them in every way. It triggers them when a black man is smarter than them. It triggers them when we dance around them. It triggers them just existing to where subconsciously they're thinking in their head, I'm not racist, let me say something that's not racist. And you're just chilling at work. And they end up saying something racist anyway. It's something that we do just by existing.
But Othello, you don't mean that.
A constant stream and loop.
Hey, Othello. Like, let's take, JB, if you look at his PTR, he has white skin, and he celebrated his room and then advocated for us. Mojo came off the mic, and he went hard and shut old boy Keegan's racist attitude down. Damn, they're better than most of the people on stage for what it was worth. And not trying to be funny, Anthony has a different perspective than than some of the black people on stage. So I'm saying sometimes we talk about these issues, and we use the tropes. I understand what you're saying, there's some that have been conditioned to be resistant to the beauty of our culture. But at the same time, the world literally celebrates the invention of jazz, hip hop, and all these original music and art forms that we created. So whatever it's worth. So we just gotta be careful how we speak.
Let me just jump in real quick. And it's gonna be a polarized statement. If it don't apply, let it fly. But I've held enough of these rooms where I've heard black people, not all black people say, we're not a monolith. Don't put us all in the same hole, right? Well, guess what, Othello? Not all white people are monoliths. We don't all think the same. What Mojo eats doesn't mean I shit it. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, JB, I thought you were Jewish.
I'm Jewish Italian, but what my religion has nothing to do with my that's me in the picture, bro. If I go to DMV, there's no Jewish box in it. It's white, black, other.
What I'm saying is being a Jewish person, right? You're not in the majority. Naturally, you're in the minority, so you understand struggle and you understand having gone through a Holocaust.
Well, hold on, Othello. My Judaism has nothing to do with my struggle. My struggle is my lived experience. There's a difference.
Right, but I'm just saying, because of your culture, because of your lived experiences, right, and being a minority, naturally, I think you can connect with other minorities.
See, that's where we disagree. I don't see myself as a minority. Because first of all, I'm going to say it's a polarizing statement. I'm a different type of Jew, man. I got tattoos and I eat bacon. So you fuck with my community, that's when I stand up. I'm the Jew that they call when shit hits the fan. But I don't live the life that the other Jews live. I live my own life. I live JB's life, right? I respectfully say Othello. But I don't see myself, and I know this is going to be triggering Othello, and I say respect it. I don't see you as a minority. I see you as a man that can do anything you want in this country. But I will say this: oppression is real, but she was a man first before she escaped her. That's the truth.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that should be the North Star for everybody, man. If we're really talking about it, I don't want to get over kumbaya with the shit, but keeping it 100, like people are always saying, I want something specific for the Black community, right? And I get that, but at the end of the day, what on Juneteenth, as we celebrate this specific level of freedom for our culture, the real freedom is demanding what King demanded, which is that the American Constitution, its Bill of Rights, its preamble, is just the whole truth. You know what I'm saying? That's what King was saying when he was on the steps of the Capitol. He was basically saying, be who you say you are. So we're founded because people didn't want religious persecution. Why we persecute people because of their religion? If this country was founded with all men that are part of the country and women having inalienable rights that could be taken away from them, and that people get to practice, think what they think, say what they want to say with the freedom of speech. My point is that our condition should be advocated for, not just by the Black people on the stage, but by everybody on the stage, because it represents, it is the most idealistic American ideology. So you can't say America first, but bump the Black people. They need to pull themselves up by their bootstrap. You can't say I'm all about America, right? And the Constitution and what it stands for, and then people aren't.
Don't even be up, man. I just want to say this. Because we have this myth in America that America was built for all created equal. America was built by white supremacists for white supremacists. That's just a fact.
100%, that's the fact. And then the point has been in the evolution and the amendments of the Constitution. What I'm saying is, in the ideal and the perfecting of the Union, which is supposed to be the point, our consistent progress has to be consumed with all Americans wanting shit to be fair for everybody. So Ms. Clark isn't saying she wants some special whites at work. She just wants her culture considered, and that her hair is different, and her attitude and temperament might be different. She might not normally relate to the norm in that workplace. It doesn't mean she's anti that workplace and she's defending the country. My point is, and I'll close here, the ideals that people of color, and not trying to be funny, Latinos and Jewish people, Indians, whoever, we're all saying, America, be who you say you are. Appreciate the diversity of thought. Yes, we understand that this country was created in a specific way, but every amendment thereafter said something different. Let's not revert back. Let's move forward in the perfection of the Union. So I'm just saying, why the hell isn't everybody, no matter what damn color you are, advocating that the people who you have to hear complain are actually asking for American ideals? Or when Keegan was on stage, he was talking about 42 and all these movies and how sick he is of watch these Black movies. Why can't those be American stories? That's all I'm just saying. The myth of absence is a problem. When you teach people that we weren't a part of defending this country, of building this country, of already being this land, when you teach people false history, then you falsely demonize a culture that doesn't deserve it. And the way to change this shit is stop the way that we're talking about it and stop the way that we're teaching the BS side of history. Don't do nothing special for Black people. Just do something special for America as being who you say you're supposed to be. I'll land there.
But I just want to say this, though. I mean, it's again, we got to remember, was founded by Anglo-Saxon whites. It's a predominantly white country. It's like going to Yankee Stadium as a Red Sox fan and saying, "Oh, how come we're not, talking more about Red Sox here at Yankee Stadium?" Because it's fucking Yankee Stadium. So you're gonna hear more about Yankees, and you might see a blip on the radar about some of the games and maybe some of the beef with the Red Sox, but it's Yankee Stadium, so it's predominantly going to be about the Yankees.
Well, the difference between the Yankee Stadium and America is that America.
Ty, please.
My bad, I didn't hear you. You a little low.
No problem. I'm not giving you it's all good. I'm not giving you a hard time. So what I was going to say is this, man. Yeah, America was founded by whoever it was founded by, right? But when we talk about the ideals of this country, what this country stands for, what it aspires to, like the ideals of what this country is about. It's not, people are infallible, but judge the country by its ideals, all right? Judge a country by what it's striving for. It's the most amazing country in the history of the known universe.
I was going to say the difference between the example that you gave, Sig, and actually America is that, kind of like Anthony said, the idea is what was put on paper. When you go to a Yankees game, they don't say, hey, all teams are created equal and we're all going to get the equal chance to score. No, that's not what they do when you go to the games. It's, hey, we're the Yankees. We're gonna whoop the fucking whatever team you said ass. That's usually what's going on. It's a competitive atmosphere. It's not an equal atmosphere. America set the tone on paper for it to be an equal atmosphere. That's the difference. So that example really didn't stick. It's sticking and slid right down the wall.
No. It actually sticks because of equal opportunity. The Yankees still allow the Red Sox to come in their stadium and equally compete. I think where a lot of people are getting the misnomer is they want equal outcome. And that's not what the promise is. The promise is only equal opportunity.
It's that they agreed to compete, though. There was an agreement to compete. It wasn't, hey, I'm going to bring all these people over here and now force you to work, and then I'm going to take away that forced work and give you nothing, and then now tell you to go ahead and try to get an equal outcome as me. But I've already done up the scoreboard on you. You see, every example that you give, I can have another one that's going to equally combat it even worse. So
this idea, this one real quick, Ms. Clark. There's this idea that in America, all white people are rich, and they've upped the scoreboard. It's nonsense. Like 10% of the population controls over 50% of the wealth. So you like, this is a complete misnomer. And like, people think that life should be fair. It's a nice thought, but life will never be fair. Life is inherently unfair. The best you can pray for is an opportunity.
Anthony,
that's the best you can pray for.
Anthony, let me ask you a question, man. And I agree with you. Life is unfair. But do you think it's unfair for some people and more so than others? To keep it real.
So I don't even understand the question, JB. I think it's either fair or it's unfair. And if like this degree of unfairness,
you're being obtuse.
No, respectfully, like I don't understand the question. Like, JB, everyone that I know that's doing well, it's because of their choices. Everyone that I know that's not doing well, it's because of their choices. In this unfair environment, like, like, I just don't understand the question.
I understand the question, Jay.
What do you think, King? Was it a bad question or was it an honest question?
I think it was an honest question.
Can you repeat it?
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand the question.
I want to give it to Ms. Clark before I respond.
How do you guys measure the degrees of fairness? That's
if we could let Ms. Clark respond.
This was just speaking out loud, bro.
I
just don't understand.
No, I get it.
Conceptually, the degrees of unfairness. That's all.
I get it. The thing is this: you're like a black-white supremacist. So I get it. Like you like to protect whiteness. And I get it. JB is just asking you, is it unfair for some people, bro? This is not rocket science, man. I mean, even as the brother
means well, he's a genuine
hold on
person.
1 second. Even as the brother time begins to speak, to tell you the history, you instead continuously go against this black man he's not saying you're wrong. He's just saying acknowledge the history. Do you know black people were enslaved longer than they've been free? So when JB gets off the mic and asks you a question, right, that's really in defense of black people, here you go, shucking and jiving again, doing the coon dance, and I get it, and I like you, Anthony. But
okay, you're factually incorrect. What you said. Factually incorrect.
I know you're mad at me. Go ahead, man.
No, I'm not. I'm not giving you no negative energy.
Okay, thank you, man.
Like, we're good. I'm just saying to you that you're factually incorrect. That's all I said.
I feel like at some point, black people feel like they gotta deny their truth to make white folks feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's like I told my girl, when JB step in the room, hold on 1 second, when JB step in the room, we already know he pro-Italian. He pro himself. For some reason, with black people, when we're pro ourselves, we always got a few niggas cooning for white folks who ain't trying to make you feel comfortable. JB gonna say his truth, bro. If it's between you and the Jewish man or Italian man, he gonna stand up for himself. For some reason, black people, we feel, hold on one second. For some reason, black people, brother, we feel like we gotta deny our history to make people feel comfortable. No, bro. It's unfairly weighed. We went through a lot of shit in this country, bro. I believe it's a beautiful country, bro. It's a beautiful country. I like what's going on. But we can't deny the history in the Black Holocaust. That's all we say.
King, here's what's up, King. Here's the problem, right? King, like, what happens is Keegan gets called racist. You know, me and Sig, we get called coons. This is your ways of trying to silence us. It's you say, yo, you don't agree with groupthink, but this is what you're advocating for by calling us these names. I'm not matching your energy. I'm not calling you any kind of names. You know, like, listen, man, I think that the most dangerous thing you can do to a person is to make them dependent on you. That's the worst thing you can do to a person. To pretend to, like, I love people that tell me, yo, this is what they're about. This is who they are. I respect that. What I don't respect is when people make other people dependent on them. They make people, they have this, like, this one little idea. And this is the only way everybody's supposed to think. And if you don't think like that, I'm going to call you some really disparaging name. I'm going to curse the day you were born. This is, and then some of these people, what they're going to do is they're going to do it with a smile on their face. They're going to do it while they're giving you a pat on your back. Wait,
Anthony. Hold on, everybody, hold on. I'm not going to give you smoke. I'm just going to give some context. When he was called a racist, Keegan, who I don't know if he's still here or not, I waited, I let everybody speak, and I let Mojo pack him up. I came off the mic and said, Keegan, I'm not going to call you a racist, but you do have some racist ideology. And you know what he said? I'm not going to argue that. So if he self-admittedly says I have racist ideologies, what would that make him, Anthony?
So
not a racist.
JB.
Is he not a racist? No, no, respectfully, I know what I hear. I'm not a dummy.
Okay.
And
can I answer your question and just be honest, bro?
Yeah, because then I want to move on.
Cool.
Well, let's move on. Because I'm not going to argue with you. Because you don't know what you do is okay, because you're being obtuse and you're being intellectually dishonest.
Okay, so JB, like, listen, man, I have never called you obtuse, and I've never called you intellectually dishonest. I've never done either.
Because I'm never obtuse or intellectually dishonest. You're being both right now.
JB, this is your perception. I don't, because of my respect for you, I don't put my perception onto you. You know, I think you're a genuine person, and I take you at face value, and I just leave it at that. There's no prize for me winning an argument here. I think that if you said, like, even what Mojo said about Keegan, it was so off base and so fun. It was wrong. It was fundamentally wrong. It wasn't intellectually dishonest. It was intellectually lazy. And it was like, I'm talking about Roger. He was 1,000% wrong. So, and it's kind of freaking hilarious coming from Roger. But I'm going to leave it.
Let me get this real quick. Hold on, if you don't mind. This is what's killing me, Anthony.
I want to respond after people. Go ahead.
You're defending someone who has come out. Keegan has also come out in other rooms and adamantly said that he sees himself as a racist. You can't get mad at people
without context. I can't say that.
How many different people do I hear from? Come on, y'all. Like, this is the part that trips me out. Like, Keegan has sat here and expounded things. You can sit here and say respectfully you don't want to be labeled as a coon. I'm not going to call you a coon, right? But Keegan has sat here and said, I don't mind being called this. You can call me this. He's been in other rooms where he said, yeah, I can see myself being this, or I am this thing. If you come out and you tell me that you're something and I refer to you by it, what I don't need is somebody coming in and saying, well, why are you calling this person this? When this person is perfectly fine sitting up here saying, I'm fine with being called that. If I get up here on the stage and somebody decides to call me, like a fucking wife, I'm a wife. And for somebody to come off and be like, you can't call that woman a wife because you think that. No, call me that. If I'm telling you, you can call me that, or you can refer to me by that, why are you defending that? I can understand when it comes to you yourself and you not wanting to be labeled things, or you don't want to be being seen like that. But I literally sat in this room the other day when Keegan was sitting up here talking about how he saw the black family at the park and they were setting up for their child's birthday party. And he sat there and said that how he called them all types of names and talked and thought in his head all types of violence towards them. And somebody said that's kind of racist as fuck. And he said, yeah, I am racist as fuck. I feel like, what the fuck is going on?
So that's not true. He didn't say he had thoughts of violence towards that family. That's not what he said. So let's keep it real and be honest when we're talking about this. But again,
sorry.
Yeah, just real quick, Alaska. And I know Free was trying to get in. What's going on, Free? Welcome, man. I definitely want to give him a chance to chime in. But the thing is, you can call us coons and whatever you want. That's fine. I mean, you got a right to free speech. But JB's correct. I hear all the time black people say we're not a monolith. But it seems like that only applies when you're going with the black narrative. As soon as you step outside of the black narrative, then, that we are not a monolith. It goes by the fucking wayside. So again, black people are racist as fuck. We heard on the stage, we had a black man refer to white people as crackers, and nobody batted an eye. Nobody said a fucking word. But if a white person said these niggas, everybody would chimp the fuck out and go off. So there's this double standard here. Black people are racist as fuck, man. Bring home a white woman to your black mother and see what the fuck happens. She's gonna have a problem with it. Not because she's a bad woman, not because she's an ugly woman, not because her hair is fucked up or her makeup's fucked up, simply because she has white skin and you're bringing her into a black environment. So if it's okay for blacks to be racist, it's okay for whites to be racist. And King, I'm gonna tell you something, bro. You can make whatever assumptions you want, but people do have their lived experience. I grew up my whole life hearing white people are evil, white people are racist, white people are gonna keep you down, this and that. And then I got around whites, and they did nothing but embrace me. I was able to open my own fucking business because a white man allowed me into his shop rent-free for 6 months to give me a fucking opportunity to be an entrepreneur. And I was able to sell that business. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have the money that I have now. I was able to sell that fucking business for a profit, but it was a white man. Never had a nigga come up to me and say, hey, bro, you can set up shop over here. You don't have to pay rent for 6 months. Just build yourself up to be successful, and then we'll talk money later. Never had that fucking happen, bro. Detroit, all the years I lived in Detroit, niggas robbing me at gunpoint, breaking into my house. As a kid, I had to sleep in the bathtub, and you know Detroit. Finkel and fucking Pinehurst, 7 Mile and Livernois. You know that area, King. You know how rough that fucking area is. Had to sleep in a fucking bathtub every fucking night because niggas was shooting. Wake up to go downstairs and go to school to go to the bus stop. Fucking dead niggas, police tape all around because niggas shot other niggas. The dead bodies laying on the fucking ground. This is what I had to witness as a child fucking growing up. So it wasn't white people that were shooting and killing niggas. It wasn't white people that made me have to sleep in a fucking bathtub at night because stray bullets were flying every fucking night. I move around white people that I've been told were evil and racist and hated me, done nothing but embrace me and help give me opportunities because they weren't looking at my skin color, they were looking at my character. So that's where some of us are coming from, King. It's not just a coon.
Hey, yo, can I respond to that, JB?
Can I respond real quick before I go to the...
Hold on, Miss Clark, let King, let King respond because he addressed you directly. Okay, King.
Yeah, I want to say, my apologies for what the brother went through. I encounter a lot of my brothers and sisters that went through a lot of things in the hood. I want to tell you, I got a lot of love for white people. JB, that's my real homie, bro. But, at some point in life, I had to learn I don't have to deny my blackness to love white people. You get what I'm saying? And when I sit here and I hear brothers like you overlook redlining and things that happen to black people, it's almost like you feel like you have to deny yourself to make somebody feel comfortable. So when I'm saying the things like the cooning and stuff like that, I'm really advocating for the kid that you were, bro. To say, he still exists. What about that black man that did sleep in the tub, that didn't want to go through what he went through? He does not exist now? We don't believe that there's good black people in the Detroit community now? That young black boy that had to get that opportunity from that white man, he doesn't deserve to know that black excellence exists? He doesn't deserve to look in the mirror and love himself. He has to deny himself of himself. He has to hate himself to make somebody feel comfortable. Brother, I just don't want you to do that, bro. I love you for real. Anthony, I admire the way y'all brothers speak, bro. Y'all the ones we love. But it really don't help the community when y'all get on and y'all don't really come back and speak to the hood and say, yo, bro, this is how I got paid. Because if all he see is the drug dealer, if all we see is the gangsters outside, because you don't got your college education, now you too good for us. You too good for your own people, bro. There's some good people in Detroit, bro. Y'all, all I'm saying is don't turn your back on them, dog. I see at work where black people gotta be fake. I get it for a check. But on Clubhouse, niggas ain't getting no money and still shucking and jiving and shit, bro. But I love you, bro. I can't deny your story. I grew up around white people. That's why I got love for white folk. I didn't know I was black until I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I'm gonna tell you, I moved around all black people to Montgomery, Alabama. I was almost scared of my own people. And I got so much love, bro. From my people, I tatted that shit on my arm. I represent Alabama for real. Because I got love down south where it was waving at us. I got hugs from my black people, so I love everybody, bro. But I don't have to deny myself to make anybody feel comfortable. I want JB to be the best Jewish man he can be. And I know he still love me, bro. That's all. So I love you, bro. I apologize if I offended anybody. I get you.
Can I say what I was
Perfect. I
gonna
just want to
say?
say that I definitely do reach out in the community, and I definitely do, show love. I give back in a multitude of ways. The number one way being my time, my efforts, and transparency in terms of how I was able to accomplish what I've been able to accomplish.
Well, yeah, you haven't hit my cash app, you cheap fuck.
Yo, and shout out to Aunt. Hey, yo, Aunt, let me say this, JB, and I give it to you. Hey, yo, Aunt, at some point, seeing your Aunt, we all got to come together, brother. CEOs. We're the black excellence. We're the heroes we're looking for. But if we can't get on one accord, nothing changes.
We can never get on one accord. And real quick, we can never get on real quick. Just real quick, it's gonna be quick. But King, I hear what you're saying. I love you too, brother. Nothing but love in my heart. But we can't notice. Anthony and I have never called you guys names. Never disparaged your point. We may disagree, but we've never disparaged your point of view. But we haven't got that same respect to return. So we can't get on one accord if the respect isn't flowing. That's true.
Now, Anthony apologized, but Anthony called me a bunch of names when he first met me. But we were all...
Wait, hold on, please. Respectfully, Ms. Clark has been waiting, and she's threatened me in the back channel. She's going to choke me.
I didn't lie. Don't say that. I did not say that. Okay, so for me, sitting up here listening, I think that, this is what gets to me. Sig, I can feel you. I can understand your plight and where you came from. Congratulations, you grew up in the inner city. I think that people tend to think that people are bad when it's just you're in a bad area. Regardless of who would have been there, it would have probably been, if you grew up in a bad area, it's a bad area. I live here in Mobile, right? If I take my ass to Pritchard, I'm going to face a lot of fucking gun violence and threats from, guess what? Black people. But if I take my ass over across the way to Mancha, Alabama, guess what? They have high fucking gun violence out there. And it's a bunch of fucking white people. If I move my ass out there, it's all about proximity. If I move my ass out there around a bunch of white people who are committing crime and it's a bad area, guess who are going to be the people who are perpetrating crime against me? A bunch of fucking white people. Just like if I move my happy black ass over to Pritchard, where there's a fucking high crime rate and it's a bad area, the people who are going to be perpetuating violence against me is going to be black people. It's not like we gotta stop trying to say, oh, well, I live in a bad area, and because I live in a bad area, the people here are this, so therefore they're the ones perpetrating or being this. No, if you would have moved anywhere else to a decent, there are decent black neighborhoods out here that have no violence, just like there are decent neighborhoods out here with white people, right? And granted, I can understand, yes, your parents probably shouldn't have drilled into you realistically that, oh, white people are racist, all this other shit, They can teach you to be cautious, which is, I think, what it's like the pendulum. We swing too far to the right, we swing too far to the left, a bunch of overcorrection, right? But at the same time, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, we gotta stop doing this shit where we're like, oh, the only people who did me bad were black people. Sir, you grew up in a bad fucking area. And it just so happened that the people there happened to be black. If you moved your ass into an Asian town area full of fucking crime, guess what? The Asian people are going to do you just as fucking bad.
Well, let me tell you, that's real. King, 2 seconds. I gotta go. Happy Juneteenth to everybody. I'm gonna hand him over to my mods. Sig, when you leave, just shut it down, okay? Thank you. Everybody have a great day, man.
Happy
Listen,
birthday.
let me say, thank you, bro. Get that cash out. Let me just say this. We had, maybe it was in the spirit of Juneteenth, I don't know. But we just had a conversation between King, Sig, and Anthony. And at the end of that conversation was apologies, love, and respect. That's amazing. That's what we need to do in these spaces. Have the discourse and then meet back in the middle with respect. Man, I love my mods. Guys, have a great day. I'll speak to you soon.
No problem. I know the mods, man, we kind of been hogging the stage. So
I just want to say one thing to Miss Court,
oh, yeah.
because I really like her. You know, I gotta keep it real. When I was around all white people when I was growing up, my problem was black people. Even though it was only a few black families. Then I moved to Montgomery, the hood. And my black experience was good. I got a lot of love. But I tell you, when you deal with black folks who really from the mud for real, who really from the ghettos and really grew up in that shit, they talk different. A lot of them talk like city. Especially if they went to school or tried to make their way out, they really talk like this. Like my girl from the west side of Atlanta, Bankhead, the worst part, she talked kind of like Sid. And I got to talk to her every day to say, nah, baby, believe in that black girl you was when you was growing up. But she say, you don't know what I went through. And she right. I don't know what she went through. And sometimes, I got to be real, sometimes we have audacity because I didn't start out that way. I was in Ohio around white people. Then I moved around all black people. They started out around all black folks. You know what I'm saying? So I can't take nothing away from his experience. I grew up with a father from Detroit. I didn't understand why he was mean mugging. Nigga, we in the suburb. What's wrong with you? But he from Detroit. It was a different experience. You know what I'm saying? I'm keeping it real. He from Detroit. You get what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is sometimes we have audacity. Some black people have audacity because they did have a better upbringing to tell people who was really in the ghettos, in the mud, getting shot at, fucked up, and they just wanted to be better people. That, you know what, bro? You gotta love us more than the love you got when you grew up. Why don't you just move around more black people? She probably lived a more blacker life than all of us. But sometimes the result of black people terrorizing each other is sin. I don't agree with it, but I gotta understand my brother. Just the same way I gotta understand my girl. I'm keeping it real with you, sis, and I love you for real. But bro, my girl from Bankhead, come to Atlanta, go to the west side, go to the bluff. She really from the slums, and she ain't really trying to hear all that black shit I be talking. I really gotta massage her mind and understand her to find some type of balance here to make her love herself again, bro. That's real talk. So shout out.
That movie was good, Snow on the Bluff. That was a pretty...
Yeah, Snow on the Bluff. Hey, you know what's going on. You know what the fuck going on.
Hell yeah.
All right, well, let's open up the stage, man. Oh, Free, what's going on, Free? I know you wanted to chime in. I think Alaska, you wanted to chime in too. Joe B's new on stage. Jody, welcome. Cool Z. Want to give some of you guys an opportunity to speak. So we'll start with Free, and then you guys, the new people on the stage. Well, yo, Free, you there? Okay, anybody else wants to go? Joe B, Jody, Cool Z. Oh, it looks like Free's back.
Short. Oh, do you want to go? I just had a short point.
Yeah, we got some brand new people. Oh, okay. Well, Free's going to yield his mic to you last to go ahead, and then Free, and then we can open it up.
Thank you so much. Welcome new people as well. Yeah, just to say as well, when we talk about areas being bad, it's really important to also look into why those areas are bad. Usually it's because of historical there's redlining, just completely going in and destroying whole communities. If we're talking economically, we know about Black Wall Street already. and also those areas are usually historically defunded as well. So there's a lot more to it.
And you know what I'm mad at? A white woman can get up here and say that shit, and black people, y'all won't even say what she said. Shout out to Alaska.
Mrs. Clark was saying something.
You denied the redlining, and Alaska came up here. Shout out to you. Yo, shout out to Alaska. I love what you just said.
I never denied redlining. What I said is my grandfather who built the house during the redlining period because he was an automotive worker in Detroit and saved up his money and built the house. And my grandmother and her sisters and brothers who grew up through Jim Crow and redlining didn't complain about it, still got college degrees, still got fucking educated, still had full-time jobs and retirements and stuff like that. They weren't complaining about it, using it as an excuse. I just don't see why the modern day 2025 people now are using it. The people who actually went through it didn't use it as an excuse. That's my only point.
And I got you, Sid, and I hear you, because it's like, it was a long time ago, and, you know, I was trying to get in when Anthony was here, when JB asked him, like, if everything is fair, no matter what these days, equal rights and everything, because I know Anthony has said before, you know, him and I agree to disagree on some things, but he has acknowledged that systemic racism does still exist, and there was that glaring modern day example, say, during the pandemic, I think it was 2022 or 2023, Wells Fargo got caught. They got caught denying multiple black families who had solid credit, no criminal history, loans, and they paid out, you know, whatever lawsuit. And I've brought that up before, and folks have been like, "Oh, well, that's just one example." But it's not 1950, not 1960, not 1970. It's the 21st century. They would have kept doing it if they didn't get caught. So I'm not going to say families are getting. I'm sorry, Mrs. Clark, I didn't catch that.
Navy Federal, the military bank, got caught doing the same thing as Wells Fargo during that time too.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, so when folks say, well, how come redlining, it was so long ago, you know, shouldn't have, folks that weren't directly impacted, grandparents and such, they were able to get past that and all the power to them. But the fact that these banks are still some part of their brains, and we're talking about powerful banks with executives making these decisions, are pulling these strings, is absolutely wild. That's all. It's just absolutely wild.
All right, free.
And to your point, Moose.
Yeah, what's up, man? Just been listening to that, man. It's hard to chime in. So, it's been a while since I looked into the cases that we just talked about with the red line thing. So, long story short, the DOJ, Eric Holder, who was head of that time, they did change some of the laws about it. Long story short, it was basically the government just sucking money out of these banks because they could. So it wasn't a legitimate cases of them actually hurting people because there was no actual victims that came forward. They just found technicalities in the law to actually rob the banks. So the banks in settlements, which would happen, could even go to trial. In the settlements, the banks were saying that we don't admit any wrongdoing, like in most settlements, and they just paid the fine. So the unfortunate cases people use to make this argument for redlining is not legitimate. It sucks to be in this space with these arguments because the thing is that it's like it's almost no position of resolution. It's like we just want to get on here and bitch and say white people are evil, and that's all that needs to be said. So to your point, Cindy, you were saying we don't deal with a lot of shit our ancestors dealt with. White people have done a lot of fucked up shit, undeniable. We know the history, right? The point is we come a long ways to actually move forward, to actually do a lot of shit. It ain't perfect and it never will be. But any little issue that comes about, we like to amplify because it's dogmatic at this point that we need to feel this cultural outrage about whites and blacks in this country and all that shit. White people are so stupid they just sit back and tolerate shit. But the point is, most of the problems that used to exist doesn't exist. We changed laws, we got politicians in place, we done a lot of shit to be different than what we were. The culture that we live in today is nowhere near like it was before, but we're gonna keep pretending it is so we can keep having this conversation. So a lot of times we sit here and be quiet because there ain't much to say because the goal is not to actually have a solution to what we don't talk about. The goal is to keep the conversation going.
How did he get white people are evil out of that? I don't understand what's going on. It was white people that just got on the stage talking about redlining, and you took that and made it
Yeah, I never seen
White
that
people
exactly.
conversation.
You caught that, King? That was wild. That was bizarre.
Yeah, I can explain how, because that's what it boils down to. Yeah, I know, yeah.
Free, real quick though, free, respectfully, you talked very quickly, so I think you said that, well, they paid out fines or they didn't go to court, so it really wasn't redlining. Can you explain that? How is that not redlining?
I said a settlement. They did a settlement. They was fined. They was sued, and it's a settlement. So in redlining, you have to prove that it was actually redlining. When you settle, like as you know, most cases that happen like this, you don't go into details of what actually happened. That means the party agreed to resolve it by the settlement. There's not an admission of guilt.
Correct, which means they can't sue again, and they don't go to court, and they can't press criminal charges. Correct. However, the fact that they settled it all and didn't just say, man, you're crazy, get out of here, we're Wells Fargo, you got nothing on us. They got caught, man, respectfully. They got caught.
That's not how that works.
They made a lesser deal. And they got caught.
Wait, are you saying that are you saying that redlining didn't happen?
We don't know because we wasn't able to see it. That's what I'm saying. So we can't make a positive claim or a negative claim based on that.
There was a study by the Federal Reserve. Sorry, there was a study by the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago economists. They conducted it in 2017 and found that redlining had persistent adverse impact on neighborhoods.
I think he's talking about the Wells Fargo case specifically. I don't think he's denying redlining.
Okay.
The historical redlining. I think he's.
Okay, thank you. That's why I was confused.
I specifically said that, in modern times, again, they changed the law in, I think, 2013 or something like that, and then they started applying it to the banks. There was one that was big with Citibank, and like I said, it's been a while since I looked this up, but they was pushing back because the bank saw, there was a lot of banks that got caught up in this. The bank saw that they was just using this to siphon money from them with this technicality. So what happened was, of course, they ended up settling. They did not make guilt, but they started pushing back because they realized that, hey, you guys are using this to just get money out of us, and there's no real victims behind this. So look into it. Like I said, it's been a while since I looked at it, but I'll go back into my archives and pull up.
And this is why I don't think white people are evil now. Because white people watch the news and study their history. You know what I'm saying? See, white people get up here and say, this is exactly what happened, right? Then you got brothers who say, we think white people evil. What's going on right now? The white folks on the stage are acknowledging what happened to black people to keep black people in certain positions, right?
So can I respond to you, King?
I'm black and white, just to be clear. This is just my conservative disguise. My first vote.
Okay, so you black? What?
Jamaican, black, British, white.
Okay, so shout out to Jamaican, black, British, white. So what I'm saying is, know your history, y'all. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is we should know our history before we speak. There's downstream impacts of things, family. That's all I'm saying. See, Dr. Kaba said, knowing history is like a slingshot. The further back you go, the further forward you will propel. So I think that we have to study our history to not think that people are trying to pick on us. You know what I'm saying? There's downstream impact. Do you agree, see? There's some downstream impact from the history and the things that black people went through in the past.
I agree there is some for those who are directly involved, but the issues we're facing today in 2025, I don't think that's impacted because, again, directly after slavery, blacks had businesses, they had their own towns, they owned land. Like, my grandmother spent time in Harlem, and I remember hearing stories of her, and she was over there in that, she kind of helped orchestrate that Harlem Mosque with the Nation of Islam. That's why she went to Harlem. Because my grandmother's Muslim. I come from a Muslim background.
Come on, Detroit.
Yeah. She worked in, and she actually moved back to Detroit to help set up the mosque there. I used to, Malcolm's brother, Wilfred, his wife used to babysit me. Like, it's a long story.
Oh, that's dope, man.
Yeah. So I got my family has ties with NOI back in the 60s when they were developing and branching out.
Yes, sir.
But I've listened to my grandmother, and even in Harlem, she was saying white folks came into our shit, patronized our businesses. We went over their shit. Yeah, there were certain rules in place. There was certain segregation in place. But even my grandmother was saying, like, it wasn't. Like, this is what my Malcolm X changed his whole fucking view. He ended up changing his view because he was on this NOI rhetoric. And then he was realizing, wait a minute, I kind of got told a lie. The evil shit about white people, it's not really true. And I've heard this account from my grandmother as well. You know, so it's like, if I'm being 100% honest, King, and it's all about being honest. I'm not taking away from the history. I'm not taking away from the bullshit black people went through. If that's where you're getting or where you're taking from it, I'm telling you right now, that's not where I'm coming from. But what I'm saying is, I've heard and listened and talked to black people that grew up in these areas who were directly affected by this. They even were saying it wasn't as bad as this generation's making it out to be, based on the pseudo history and hyperbolic history that's being presented.
But
I agree.
The arrested development, right, is detailed in data. Like you could, this is not something that you have a conversation with somebody. Well, how did you live? Oh, how was it back then? Did you have a good childhood? That's bullshit, right? There's a wage gap, right? These are statistics. This is data, right? It shows you what that wage gap is and where it's gone from point A to point B. And if you don't see a real significant change in that wage gap, there's a problem, right? So when people talk about systemic racism, right, and how you have institutions in the United States of America that have been in place since prior to emancipation, that have kept the corporate culture, right, of like racism, right, and impediments to black upward economic mobility. That shit needs to be addressed. There needs to be actions taken to undo the harms, because white people who have not had the impediments, they've had access to resources, access to all kinds of benefits that were intentionally kept from black people, right? They benefited. They've been able to propel themselves economically, right? Where blacks have not. And not only blacks have not been able to propel themselves economically, but they also have inherited, right, the negative impacts, right? The negative impact of having people impoverished for multiple generations. So when you look around you and you see you have a higher probability or chance of having uncles, your father, your mother that have spent time in prison, right? These things, right, have a lot to do with that inherited poverty, right? Because you have a higher probability of ending up in these situations if you're impoverished. So you can't sit up here and say that what's happening now is totally in a vacuum away from what's happened historically in this country. That's not how history functions, that's not how money functions, and that's not how social mobility.
Word, and shout out to the brother, and I want to give it to my friend after that. But Zeke said it wasn't as bad. And sometimes we make it seem worse than what it was. As I look at where I'm from in Montgomery, Alabama, there's a lynching memorial that's open. Says the magnitude of the killing is harrowing, all the more so when paired with circumstances of individual lynchings. Some described in brief summaries, along with the Walk Park Banks, lynched in Mississippi in 1922 for carrying a photograph of a white woman. Caleb Gadley hanged in Kentucky in 1894 for walking behind the wife of his white employer. Mary Turner, who after denouncing her husband's lynching by a rampaging white mob, was hung upside down, burned, and then sliced open so that her unborn child fell to the ground. Brother, it's that time is going along, and we're trying to live. But our ancestors went through a storm here, brother, and it was bad, family. Like I said, I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. It's a lynching museum. I want you to look these things up tonight. See? It ain't all peaches and cream, bro. That's all I'm saying.
I never said that. You're coming from a point that I'm denying this. Look, I understand that there's 4,000 documented lynchings, over 4,000.
Yeah.
I know. And again, I'm not coming from a place saying it did not happen or atrocities did not happen. I'm not denying that.
For sure.
I acknowledge that these horrible, right. I acknowledge these horrible things happening. But is it possible that maybe some of this stuff is being is hyperbolic? And maybe being made worse than it was. Is there a possibility?
Now, look, it's a possibility. Now look at this. Is it a possibility that you're upbringing in Detroit was better than you make it seem? You know how you tell people who lives in Detroit? You get what I'm saying, bro? I cannot take away from your story, bro. And sometimes we're trying to water down the Black Holocaust to make other people feel comfortable. Let me ask you something. You got kids, right? I know you got a child, right?
Yeah, I got
you got a wife.
Yeah, I got two.
So if you work hard too, you're successful. If somebody robbed you tonight, took everything you own, you don't think that would affect your kids and your wife?
It would affect my kids and my wife, but here's the thing. We wouldn't dwell on it. We deal with it in the moment, and then we wouldn't let us hold it back, and we wouldn't use it as an excuse to rebuild, King.
Okay, so I love that. So this is the thing, right? I'll never tell a Jewish person they're dwelling on the Holocaust. Because that shit really happened. And it messed people up, bro. It affected people, bro. I'll never tell people to deny their history. I don't think you should dwell in it. I don't think acknowledgement of monstrosities or things that happen to your people is you dwelling in things, bro. I think it's you acknowledging what your ancestors went through. And I believe a lot of our ancestors will be disappointed in us for sitting here singing Kumbaya with people that enslaved them. They would want us to acknowledge what they went through. But seriously, bro, my thing is, bro, I really love you, bro, but once again, you do not have to deny yourself to make nobody feel comfortable. That's all I'm saying.
What did you say that, King?
I'm listening.
What do you mean by that?
Right? And you said,
fair enough.
Like, we trying to make white people evil. I don't think white people evil. I love white people. I got really, bro. I'm like,
white friends?
If it wasn't for white
Some of King's best friends are white.
Yeah, can I explain to you what I mean by that, King?
Hey,
So you can understand me better?
Jews took me
Yeah,
to death jam. I signed a death jam for $500,000, bro. I love me some Jewish people, some white folk. You know what I'm talking about? But at the same time, I'm still pro myself. And guess what?
How come you're not pro white
like you
people
more
too?
when you pro yourself. But you know what black folks want to do? We want to deny our blackness to make white folks feel comfortable. And you know what white folks really saying? Look at this nigga cooning for us. They don't see that you black.
No, that's what black people say. That's
even
not
the
what
white folks looking at you like you a fool.
White people today don't use the word.
That's not true. That's not
Listen,
true.
why are white people? Hold on a second. I got you. I'm gonna let you yell later. Why are white people sitting up here defending our history? Because even they know it's some wrong that's been done, bro. Why are we the only ones that
I'm
deny?
tired of black people crying.
Let me hop in real quick. I'm gonna try to see my.
So black culture is just trauma. That's all it is now. Black culture is just trauma. Let's whine and bitch and cry and moan about our trauma.
I agree with that. But real quickly, I'm sorry, King. The thing is, you keep saying we're not history. Nobody's denying the history. Nobody said we ended it. We're saying we're moving the fuck forward from it. We can't change the history. It is what it is. And if you, me, Sig, and a lot of other black people come on this app talk about how successful we are, then why the fuck we keep talking about history when we tell the people who are actually struggling? As a matter of fact, we do so good now that I don't meet black people struggling. I meet black people talk about other black people struggling, which is so fucking crazy. But if we're doing, let me finish real quick, because I'm about to get on the train. If that's the case, then that means we made enough progress to where we don't have to keep looking back at the past. Right now, in my own lifetime, if I was a millionaire at 20 and I lost my money at 30 and I got it back good at 40, why the fuck am I talking about what my dad did and he was there as a child? Like, I'm capable of doing more. I don't have to keep referring on the past because you're seeing me go through cycles. So we've seen black people who actually went through oppression achieve and succeed. None of us are doing what our ancestors struggled with. And that's what we're saying. Let's move forward.
None of us are going through Jim Crow. None of us are affected by Jim Crow laws or anything like that. The black culture is not even black anymore. It's all about crying, whining, bitching, moaning about slavery, about Jim Crow, and about all this shit that never even happens to us. Black people are living a good life, okay? And all these people that say, oh yeah, I have a white friend too, okay? You don't uplift and talk about all the white people that are doing great things for black people. You don't talk about the Jews that stood side by side with Martin Luther King on the bridge. You don't talk about all of that. The narrative you just want to put out is that white people are the devil and black people are these victims that nobody came to rescue. You know what the real atrocity of your community right now? It's child support. Okay, you talk about raping and pillaging your families and taking everything you have
have and everything you've worked for. You talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, you talk about that stuff, but you don't want to talk about child support. Okay, because it's okay for a woman that you impregnate to reject your leadership, to reject your position in your home, kick you out of your own house, and actually take $1,000 instead a month. Okay, that is actually crazy. That is insane.
Also, King.
Go ahead, man. Go.
You gotta recognize that Major General Gordon Granger, which was from the North, came down and finally 2 years later, after the Emancipation Proclamation was done, actually let you guys know that you were free 2 years before, that you had the opportunity to do anything you wanted, and yet the Democrats are the ones that kept you. The Northern Republicans are the ones who let you know you were free. Abraham Lincoln let you know you're free. And that's the thing, you don't look at your history and thank the white people who did it. The Northern white, Abraham Lincoln, Major General Gordon Granger.
I love that he said that. See, a lot of people don't know the history. I see I'm talking to a lot of people that don't know the history. Even with Abraham Lincoln, his plight was not to free the slaves. Dude,
but he did.
Hold on one second.
He did.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. See, I'm about to do the history with him. See, a lot of people don't want to know the truth about Abraham Lincoln.
Yes,
see,
he had slaves in one
let me tell you something.
But yes, he did free them.
A lot of people don't want to know.
He only did it to end the war.
See, yeah, let's tell the truth tonight. Let's tell the truth today.
He did have slaves.
Abraham Lincoln did not want to free the slaves, y'all. I want you to know.
That's why he did the Emancipation Proclamation. He was the one that the Emancipation Proclamation was under.
Hey, yo, I just talk like this. I read. I know my history, Nine. You can't just come up and tell me some bullshit, Nine.
I read the same history you do.
Okay, well, hold on. One mic on King. Sorry I'm quiet. I'm working actually.
No, you good.
So, yeah, but because King has a point. A lot of people don't know the history of today. If y'all would let him kind of finish what he was going to say about Abe Lincoln, because I know we have some folks.
It's all good.
All right, go ahead, Cool C.
We know that he had slaves. He actually freed them under the Emancipation Proclamation. Every president except for Donald Trump's family had slaves. Even Obama's family. It's all history. And it's crazy that we talk about this, but you got to realize the Republicans are the ones who did it. You got to look at the Democrats here who then put Margaret Sanger in place. Like you talked about that lady being hung upside down and the baby being forced on the ground. Margaret Sanger came into your own community, especially
your phone breaking up on my side, brother. I don't know if it's just...
Yeah, we can't hear you, sir.
Man, you know Abraham Lincoln ain't want to free the slaves, man. Essentially, we should be thanking black soldiers for the fact that black people free. Essentially, you should be thanking the soldiers, man. Because the soldiers fought on the front line for the freedom of black people. This is just real stuff,
Which soldiers?
Hold on,
one second. See, they not ready for this.
Northern surgeons.
They not ready for the history.
The Northern black soldiers fought.
They not ready.
The ones that agreed on the freedom.
Okay, can we have one mic on King, please?
Hey, let them be upset, because I'm telling the truth up in this.
I'm not upset.
Yeah, no, I'm proud of the drug dealers in the 80s that sold crack to black people.
The Civil War was never about freeing the slaves, baby.
Right.
Never.
I'm saying we should celebrate. We should celebrate.
I put your point in the chat. It was a decision to weaken the Union. It was not a moral decision to King's.
And listen. When it come to see and free, just because they got a little
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all love. Hey, go ahead, bro. Just because they got a little slice of pizza or something, a piece of American pie, they gonna act like they still ain't got family in the ghetto. Just the problem with black folk. We win a little bit, we forget about our people, bro. You know what I'm saying? And then my boy gonna talk about Hey, yo, nah, I know about the Abraham Lincoln. He did not want to free black people. Let's talk about, not only didn't he want to free black people, you had to fight to free yourself because they were losing the Civil War. They were losing. Free them niggas, let them fight so they can fight for their own freedom. And guess what Abraham Lincoln wanted to do? He wanted to send all black people to Central America. Did you know that? I need you to look that up too. When he freed black people, he wanted to move us. You better look up your history, y'all. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, nah. I just talk like this. I know the history. Okay? So the brother now, he wants to make the Republican Party look so pretty. I got you. I'm not mad at Republicans and Democrats. The only reason why I can't be a Republican is because they'll say, pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Well, give me a boot, bitch. You paid reparations to everybody else. But a motherfucker, this is my problem. You say pull yourself up by your bootstrap, but you had the boot 400 years and still won't give us a boot. But you know what you'll give us? A holiday. Thank you. No
that
rebate.
holiday was given to you by the Democrats.
One mic. Who is
yeah, one mic. I'm gonna say something.
Go ahead, Moose.
Yeah, I'll say real quick, it's kind of a half joke for a little levity here. Things get a little tense, but yeah, King, you gotta remember they gave the black community a holiday so you can get those said boots to pull yourself up on the bootstraps half off. You get that half off discount sale.
Yo, but I just wanted to say real quick, on top of what King is saying is correct, but also somebody was spreading like a misconception that we have to credit only northern black soldiers for the emancipation. That's completely false. 1835, 1836 is the Black Seminole Rebellion, where they joined forces with natives that had a great impact and influence over the decision of the Emancipation Proclamation that happened about 30 years later. So don't credit only northern black soldiers. Many around the country were fighting for
and
succeeded.
King's gotta come back in. Go ahead, King. Preach to him.
No. I just want to say shout out to him knowing the history.
Oh, okay. I thought you were trying to hug the mic. Go ahead.
Hell no, bro. But listen, if you can prove me wrong about Abraham Lincoln, I'll take it. I'll pay you if you can prove me wrong. That the Civil War was not about freeing the slaves, and Abraham Lincoln's initial thinking was not to free the slaves. If you can prove me wrong, I'll send you $100 cash out right now. Send me the links, send me the research, put it in the box, and let's do it.
It ain't even.
We also got to realize the Whig Party. We also got to realize the Whig Party, which then became the part of the Republican Party, also had a lot of black Americans in it. And you got to realize the first black American senator was a Republican in 63 or something, 1863. The Democrats didn't do that till the 90s. You got to realize this. You got to look at who's affecting you. And you're not even seeing it with your own eyes. The Democrats are the ones who put Margaret Sanger in place to the abortions in low-income, poor, white and black areas. Guess what? You talked about that lady hanging upside down. Guess what? They're doing it in front of your face by putting up the Planned Parenthood in your community. Imagine 20 more million black babies around today. Guess what? Your population would be more than 13% of the American population, or 15.
Cool Steve, God bless you. But one thing I'm not sure if you're aware of, modern day black Democrats, long-time black-leaning liberals, they don't care about that. Republicans will always be the faces of racism. Conservatives will always be the enemy.
But that's the wrong way to look at it, because the Republicans
I understand that, sir, but your average black voter in America does not agree with that. Democrats will always be the heroes in their eyes. That's why they have a motto: vote blue no matter who. They don't care about policies. They don't care what the face of the Democrat is, just as long as it's a Democrat and as long as it's not a Republican, because conservatism and Republicans represent racism. They like their racism masked, right? They like the hood. Somebody said on the stage earlier, some folks like their racists wearing a hood. They don't want that overt racism. So despite the history of the Democratic and the Republican Party in America, your modern day black, left-leaning liberal voter does not care.
I mean, while there are many valid critiques on the Democrat Party and how they operate, I think that ruling out the entire party essentially just creates your own vote blue no matter who. It's just the red color now, because if you eliminate the viability of one of the only two parties, essentially you're saying there's only one correct choice every time around. So it wouldn't be much different than saying something like vote blue no matter who, if you're going to say something like all Democrats don't have your best interest. But real quick, if anybody's familiar with what's called the GEO Group, this is something in 2025. It's a prison company, right? They donated, they run ICE detainment facilities, and they donated over $600,000 to a MAGA super PAC in 2024. That's modern day what Republicans are currently doing, and I want everybody to keep in mind that these are the prison companies that operate these detainment facilities. They get paid no matter how accurate the processing is for the inmates. So if they detain an American citizen and harass an American citizen, it doesn't matter. The money still counts green.
Okay, I don't know what the purpose was. She never even said never vote Democrat. She said, use your head. And see, that this is the problem, okay? Black people are just so attached to their ideologies. They really need to fit in. They really need to prove that they're black enough, okay? Because of this identity crisis that they have, that they're so attached to being black and what other black people say.
Because that's not true.
Well, let me
There's no
finish.
identity crisis here.
They're so attached to being black that they can't even question their belief system and analyze and assess what actually works for them as individuals. That's true. The problem. Okay.
No, he's
Yeah, that's not true.
No, I kind of agree with that, but I won't debate them in.
I'm gonna tell you why I disagree now. I have to.
Go ahead.
Well, that's why you have black people who call other black people coons and sellouts and maggots. If I'm understanding this brother's point, right? But correct me if I'm wrong. That's why you have blacks who call other blacks coons and maggots and sellouts and this and bedwenches if they don't subscribe to the same left-leaning or liberal-leaning ideology. So I mean, I don't know. I kind of agree with his point, but I got to take this call. Be right back.
Hold on. These people are not just rolling back liberal policy. These people are rolling back policy that actually benefits black people, like objectively. When we talk about literature that showcases black history being pulled out of schools, that's harmful. That's harmful to every single black person alive in America, right? Because it takes away, right, the actual history of what actually happened to a group of people, right, in a way that it makes it such that children may, in fact, endorse policy that could actually repeat the negative things that have happened historically to black people, okay? This is not like, so when somebody says you're a MAGA, right, and you're supporting MAGA policy that's harmful to black people, and that makes you a caricature of blackness, right, that is ascribed to as coon or ascribed to as an Uncle Tom or what have you, you know, there's context behind that. There's policy that impacts black life behind that. It's not just, oh, you believe in small government, right? Black people have believed in small government for a long period of time, and they were never addressed as such. It's the party, the Republican Party, has gone beyond simply small government, simply no foreign intervention, simply classical Republican ideology, and people that don't recognize that are incredibly obtuse, if you ask.
So, just real fast, what up, Moose? Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toe.
No, I'm good. Truth, good to see you. Go ahead, man.
Appreciate y'all making quick. I just wanted to correct the record because it was stated earlier that Republicans have a better history on civil rights issues when it comes to when it comes to civil rights issues. While that is true, that's literally the case. Like, they have good history. From around 1960 to 1980, you guys might have heard of this, the phenomenon known as the party switch, triggered by the dissolution of the Dixiecrats into the Republican Party. So it's like, it's disingenuous to use the Republicans' history as if to suggest that's who they are today. They have they've been rolling back. I mean, they're talking about renaming military bases after Confederate generals. A treasonous. Let's not even get into it. But the point is, these are not the Republicans of yesteryear. These are modern Republicans who are very racialized and use coded language, dog whistles, the Southern strategy. You know about it. But yeah, so no. And that being said, last thing I'll say, I hate when I hear people say things like, "Oh, blacks are on the Democrat plantation." No, we're not. Okay, I'm 33. I've been black my whole life. I've yet to meet the black man or black woman who's like, "Oh no, rah, Democrat, rah." No, it's more like lesser evil. Okay, we know we playing with the lesser demon instead of the devil himself. Okay, like there is no like, and I think that's a projection because conservatives can get really sycophantic about their leaders. But anyway.
Wait, True, let me ask you something really quick.
You don't think it's important to actually promote you getting black people getting jobs, getting out of the situation? You don't think that's important to
I think Democrats are demonstrably better for the economy. And I think Republicans fuck the economy up every time. We can go through the
You look at the Clintons, you look at Reagan got our economy back in order.
I'll give you Clinton. Clinton was horrible for the economy. He's an exception.
So is Obama.
Obama was actually good.
Okay, cool. See, we know every Democrat president was the worst. Can we move on from this diatribe?
He's talking about jobs. You pretended to go rolling back DEI policy. Hold on. You pretend to go rolling back DEI is going to help people get jobs.
Okay, wait, gentlemen, we can't hear everybody if they're speaking at the same time.
He's pretending as though rolling back DEI policy is going to help black people get jobs. Since when?
Why do we got to separate people from being American?
That's not what.
Why can't?
So cool.
Yes, it is.
Cool. So that's not what DEI policy does, bro.
It says a black person who has a supposedly education can get ahead of a white person.
That's not what it says. That's a show of your ignorance.
Diversity.
You've just
Fellas, the mod just said one at a time, please.
The DEI is not about
you keep speaking, but you don't let anybody finish a statement. I feel like you're just talking just to talk and to react. So get your point out and let somebody respond. Now, Cool C, hold on. MJ wants to respond. MJ, go ahead, let him finish, sir. Then Cool C, you can respond. But we can't everybody be speaking at the same time because no one can hear. Go ahead.
DEI is not about quotas. DEI is about actual opportunities. Giving people who would not get opportunities interviews for jobs. Giving them an opportunity to be seen and considered, right, for different positions. It is not about picking one person over the other. There is no policy, right, that can sit up here and tell an employer who to pick and how many black people should be in a particular type of position. This is nonsense.
Okay, now Cool C, go ahead.
That's what the DEI was. You're supposed to get an equal opportunity for being American. You put a thing in place, the Democrats did, so that you potentially could feel better about yourself. Why not just be better about yourself and apply for the same job? Why you got to depend on the Democratic policy to get you a better job? Why not do it on your own? Why not be the best you can be, and you will get the right person? That's what a lot of these people.
Okay, Truth, go ahead, Truth. I see you off mic. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so cool. So you're unfortunately you're victim of a lot of propagandist talking points. If you do this right now as I speak, you can go to ChatGPT, you can go to Google or your favorite search engine, whatever, and just look into DEI. Really search these terms: DEI propaganda versus truth. Right? What are the narratives around it, which you're repeating, showing that you haven't actually done research on yourself, versus how it actually functions. So first thing, one of the worst lies, there's no quotas. There's no quotas. Now here's where the myth of quota comes from. There is auditing. So what happens is DEI is essentially an executive order that constitutes a set of procedures in which we can ensure that there are fair hiring practices. Now, realistically, the executive office is not about to finance the
the needle in the haystack for every single corporation trying to find the fucking racist. That doesn't even make any sense. So rather what they do instead is when we see like you're employing 10,000 people and everybody's one gender, one race, one age range, okay, that kind of flags. We'll do an audit. We'll evaluate your hiring process. And if discriminatory practices are discovered, then it comes down on you, right? That's where the idea of quotas comes from, because people found out the ratio that saves you from being audited. That's literally it. Your idea of it being forced on them is ironically them trying to skirt the system so that they don't have to get flagged, because they probably are discriminatory, right? Also, just man to man, common sense to common sense, right? If I start a company, I'm probably hiring my brother and my cousins, right? If we're all the same race, and there's a history of another race being treated as a second class, when do they get a chance to even get a leg in? I always got a friend, I always got a brother, I always got a cousin, I always know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. What are the odds he's ever black? So even if you take racism out of it, if you want the system to give black people a fair chance, in other words, we're not saying give us a handout and hire some guy who's not qualified. We're saying there is a guy who's qualified, we can prove it, and that is demonstrable, and that will be a discriminatory hiring practice. Because if we can show, oh, here's a perfect black candidate and you didn't hire him, why? Why didn't you hire him? We looked at his resume, we looked at his credentials, we looked at his qualifications. Why didn't you hire him? Oh, well, because he didn't fit the culture. Okay, you're racist. So, and that's how it's proven in court. This is not, what do you even think America becomes? A game of feelings? No, it's law, it's order, it's fucking legal document. You have to prove shit. Someone has to sign off on it. People are liable for these decisions. You know that's true, and that's how you should know that's a red flag when you start thinking like, oh man, they're forcing us to what did you even imagine was happening? That like unqualified black people are like flooding into positions? Like what the fuck? Anyway.
Okay, thank you, Truth. Shepard, is it Shepard? Go ahead, sir. I didn't click on your PTR to see your full name. I just see Shep and WREC. So.
Yeah, no worries. I just had a question. Do you think the pushback on DEI would be as great as it is right now if we hadn't moved over from like hard-coded kind of genetic breakdowns to preferential inclusion within the DEI kind of atmosphere? This is a question for you.
Hard-coded genetic breakdowns?
Yeah, race, culture, female, male, as opposed to preferential.
I'm still not sure I understand the question.
Preferential would be
nepotism.
No, preferential would be like sexual attraction, like from the DEI aspect, sexual preference, gender bias, things along those lines, outside of male-female. The inclusion of preferential as of the person. I feel I am this, or I prefer this person to be attracted to. I prefer to wear these items of clothing, as opposed to hard-coded African American versus Asian American versus white versus those hard-coded genetic factors that prior to the past few years, the inclusion of other groups into the.
If I'm understanding what you're saying, you're basically asking if the gender abolition movement played a role in the downfall of the marketing of DEI or the public perception of it. I think that's actually a pretty fair question, because it's like, realistically, if you just focus on DEI and minorities, I think that's more palatable. But once people start conceptualizing, oh, you got to hire this gender non-conforming person, and that makes a lot of people in the country uncomfortable. I can see that. Realistically, though, I don't think that's how it was used, though. Because in my experience, how I've seen white Americans who are like super anti-DEI use it, they're always pointing out a black person and saying, look at that DEI. Anytime they see a black person who's incompetent, DEI. And it's like, it has nothing to do with queerness or any type of gender. I do see what you're getting at, but in practice, that's not how it's. No, they're not complaining about that. They're complaining about brown skin, and they're pissed. That's why brother, they're renaming the military bases after the Confederate generals. Can we stop with the charade?
Can I also? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Nope. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Yeah, now I want to respond to you too.
Right on. Truth, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead. And I'll make a quick point, and then
I was just gonna say, it's like this has never really been about the stated issue. It's always been about a deep desire to take back a cultural identity that they've lost, that's becoming outdated. And they've been mad since they lost the Civil War. They said that. So this is a long game.
You know, really quickly, I'm gonna just chill right now on the DEI conversation simply because the narrative has long been that white women specifically are the main benefactors of DEI and affirmative action. Number one. Number two, I've been working since I'm 14. Now going to transition with my adult life when I moved to California, began working at the age of 2021, primarily in corporate America, to the age I am now, my big right age at Generation X age, right? Without getting specific. Every job that I've ever held, white folks are the dominant presence in the office. They hold the CEO positions. They hold the executive positions. They do the hiring and firing. And my lifetime has proven the age-old theory, black folks last hired, first fired. So when y'all start arguing about DEI and white people being replaced and all this, I don't know nothing about it, because that's not my lived experience. When I go out into the workforce, I see nothing but white folks. And then I come on social media and they're complaining that they're being replaced by DEI. So I'm going to chill and just listen and learn from the people who are allegedly impacted by DEI, because that's not my experience. The white man is still rocking and rolling in the areas that I navigate professionally. But go ahead, King.
Listen, I love Naya. Shout out to her for that, because I heard that too. That DEI was really benefiting white women. And I think a white woman in the box said they're really mad because white women are getting the jobs and not marrying or having babies. Now, Naya talks about black people calling them maggots. Listen. We talk about all this shit, calling you coon if you're a Republican. Why did black people start voting Democrat? Because we were Republicans first. And I need Nye to think about this, because, you know, sometimes we like to make black people seem dumb, right? All these black people back in the Democratic Party, why? Because they got good fried chicken? What is it? I didn't know it was KFC. The short answer, black Americans started voting Democrat in the 1930s and 1960s because Democrats finally started what? Supporting civil rights and economic help, while white Republicans shifted towards conservative white voters. Why the switch? Democrats eventually backed equality. Republicans chased racist white voters instead. Come on now.
So I hear you, and I won't disagree. I agree.
We gotta wake up, baby.
Yeah,
so Republicans gotta come for black people, other than give us Trump's toupee. I like his toupee. He looks like Garfield.
Well, hold on, but Kim, you won't get any pushback on that from me, sir. Let me just say this really quick. My only issue is now, you know, when you have black people when you have black folks who, like me, who were longtime Democratic voters, who one day woke up and said, you know what, my political party that I have supported since I became voting age, for some odd reason, I blinked. And they just moved too far left for me. They're the people that they uplift, the leadership, the topics, the policies that they support today don't align with my moral code. And so I'm like, listen, I don't want to vote for this party because this party is fringe now. They didn't always be that way. Something happened in the last decade or less where the Democrats just went too far left, and you have longtime Democratic voters and politicians who are abandoning the Democratic Party for that reason, because of their policies. And because we have in our community today, black people who are like, you know what, I don't support the Biden administration, or I don't support Kamala, or this, that, and the other, whoever it is. I don't want to vote for these people. Then they're called coons, sellouts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my point, sir, and I'm not going to disagree with anything you're saying because you're spot on, and I agree with that one.
Nah, I'm with you. I just think that black Republicans have to have grace for black Democrats, because you never ask, why did we switch? You get what I'm saying? Nah, so I think that black like Democrats are looking for something more from the Republican Party than just a candidate with a nice toupee. But I like Trump though. And I want to say this too. Sometimes the problem is you're a conservative, baby. A lot of people don't know what conservative and liberal is. Sorry, my grandma don't know. Okay, grandma, do you know you're liberal? You're voting for the gay man? And shout out to the gays, no problem, do your thing. But grandma gonna go to church tomorrow with conservative views, but then vote Democratic because she doesn't understand the difference between a conservative and a liberal. You could be a conservative Democrat. You understand it right now?
Absolutely. But King, check this out though. We have Democrats right now who can't even define what a woman is. As a woman, I have a problem with that. They put our first black Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown. They asked the sister, "What's a woman?" She said she couldn't define it. Then you have black folks saying, "Well, she was playing the political game." No, she wasn't playing the political game. There's this mentality in the Democratic Party now where we have to protect men who identify as women. They say the male rapists, the kitty diddlers, these violent men can be housed in women's prisons because they identify as women. They can be in the spas with women, walking around with their schlong, hanging out because they identify as women. They can transgender the children and put them on mutilation drugs, right? Because of so-called gender affirming care, which is completely made up, right? These are all coming out of Democratic policies, which are weird. And your average hardworking voting American doesn't care about all this stuff. Kamala Harris went on that HBC tour while she was running for presidency. She spoke to black women at HBC schools. These are female doctors of the future, lawyers, educators. And that woman got up there and told and pretty much encouraged, in part of her speech on these tours, was promoting abortions. Lady, how dare you tell these black women, put that seed in their mind to kill their unborn, right?
And they're black babies. They're black babies.
Yeah, kill black babies, you know? So these are things, and everything you said is valid, and I'm not going to push back on it. I'm just highlighting these examples. I don't understand how the Democratic Party has moved so far from reality, right? Men and women's sports. We've got to the point now where you have Democratic leaders and conservative leaders and voters and supporters on both sides now in the 21st century, 2025, arguing about the biological differences between male and female. And you have some people saying it's not a thing. Throughout history, it's never been a debate. Humans have always known about the biological differences between men and women, and now we've politicized this issue. Not to mention we politicized where folks should be using the bathroom. Biden said on the White House lawn a couple years ago, I think it was Transgender Day of Recognition or something. This man actually said, and y'all can pull this up on YouTube, that transgenders are the most bravest people that he's ever met. I was offended by that because I'm like, well, wait a minute, these are the most bravest people you've ever met? What about our men and women who sign up for the military? What about our men and women who have lost their lives fighting for this country, who've come back with PTSD, who don't get help from a lot of our veteran hospitals? They have to struggle just to get help because they have trauma. But the transgenders are the most bravest people, you know? Come on. That's why I call this party the party of the loony left. And until we burn down this modern day Democratic Party and some new leaders rise from the ashes like the phoenix and bring us back to center and common sense, I will never vote for another Democrat. And I hear you, sir. Everything you said about the Democrats and why black people have been loyal to the Democratic Party, 100% agree. But if somebody can tell me why they've gone to loony land and the Democratic leaders are constantly seemingly at war with God, nature, and biology, I'm here for it. I'm open ear.
You know, I hear you, and valid points, and I'm on the left, probably more moderate. But yeah, I was saying in a room the other day, I think it was Black Muse, that essentially I think the whole trans argument it's political kryptonite for the left, and you know, this is a hill they want to die on when we're talking about what is it, approximately 1.6 million adults and youth identify as transgender. This is less than 1%. It is 0.6% of the U.S. population. Now, I'm not saying, well, it's just so small. The heck with them. They have to figure it all out. But you need to put more energy, more fervor into issues that the majority of the country can rock with, can relate with, So the problem now is that we're so polarized. The left, I think you just say left loonies. That's far more tolerable than what a lot of our friends in the chat like to do, is the infamous libtards. But here we are, right? Here we are with the left dying on that hill, and the right all about deportation, January 6th, all that, right? The election was stolen. Like, this country now has gotten so, like, there's no middle anymore. It's like you're with us or against us. And it's hard to, it's not to say, it's just very hard to say, well, but look what the left is doing and look what the right is doing. Because honestly, I think both sides have gone Looney Tunes. It's like we're at a place now where we are, like, people are getting jumped for political, and we're not even racist, like just for their political views, like at these rallies, whether it's No King's Day, or whether it's January 6th, or whether it's the election in 2020 and all that. Like it's like, how did we get here? Like, have we been here the whole time and America's made its bed and this is where we're at? I don't know how we're gonna mend this wound that has divided us so deeply, but I think to say that it is all the left or it is all the right, without either side taking any accountability, is even crazier.
I love what he said. Shout out to Nine. Listen, I want to say this to Nine because I love Nine. I really do. So smart. I showed you why black people switched to the Democratic Party, right? I broke that down. I want to ask you, and I want to ask the black Republicans, what are you really benefiting from the Republican Party? What are black people benefiting under Trump that they wouldn't benefit? Hold on, I got you. I understand. It's true. What are black people gaining under Trump that they're not getting, that they wouldn't get with Kamala? Because for you to be a black woman, I want you to hear this. For you to be a black woman, and I get it, Kamala, she washed collard greens in the tub. I don't like her either. But for us to say that Kamala wasn't more groomed, I want you to hear this. For us to think that Kamala Harris wasn't more groomed, wasn't more poised, wasn't more presidential than Trump is crazy. We're brainwashed now. Because I'm asking you now once again, what has happened better for black people up under Trump than what happened when Joe Biden was in office? You got to tell me that. Because if you want black people to really shift, you got to show black people the change that we're seen as black Republicans versus being black.
Okay, let me just say this. I have to speak from, I can only speak my truth, and I have to come from an individualistic point of view. Okay? First, let me make clear, I'm not a Republican. I've never voted Republican. I've always voted Democrat. But I was very, very disappointed in the Biden administration for a number of reasons. And when Kamala Harris was grilled about how her presidency would be different from Biden's, and she said it wouldn't be. And then when she said, a couple years ago, I'm not going to do anything for black people. Well, no, I'm not going to write policies that support black people. I'm not saying that she was not deserving of the presidential ticket. She just wasn't going to get my vote because I didn't want to deal with 4 more years of the Biden administration. I didn't like how this administration handled COVID. Okay, now I know the argument can be Trump, COVID started under Trump, but it was really, a lot of the COVID policies coming out of the Biden administration I didn't like. I really didn't like. Listen, I'm pro-woman all the way, right? I support women, staunch advocate for women. You know why I voted for Trump for 2 reasons. I can't tell you how Republicans or Trump are going to be better for black people because that's never really been my stance. I voted for Trump for 2 reasons. One, I didn't want this administration again because of how they also, their LGBTQ plus MIA policies. Remember, this is the same liberal-leaning politicians. I'm not saying Kamala or Biden, but liberals, the past 4 years are the ones who've been coming out saying, we can't call pedophiles anymore. We need to call them MAPs, minor attracted people. Then I started seeing in certain states, right, LGBTQ politicians in office rewriting laws to protect pedophiles. Look it up if y'all don't believe me. I said to myself, if I vote for liberals again, will they legalize and romanticize pedophilia? Because I see it coming. They're using this LGBTQ umbrella to normalize pedophilia. And again, I work in news, so I probably see things and read a lot of information that comes across my news desk that most people don't see. My vote for Trump was a vote against degeneracy, and hear me out. I'm not saying Republicans and conservatives are perfect, okay? I'm not saying that they don't have their own issues with PDFs, pedophiles, and all that stuff. But I wasn't going to take a chance on this administration with supporting more of anti-woman policies, right? I voted for Trump when Trump said, we're going to get men out of women's prisons. We're going to protect women's spaces. We're going to protect women's sports, right? Trump got my vote for primarily that reason. And because my vote for Trump was a vote against the loony liberals, i.e. Biden. Now, if there was any other Democratic candidate whose ideology represented my moral code, who I felt was for the Americans, wasn't pushing abortion, wasn't pushing transgendering the children, wasn't pushing putting male violent criminals in prisons with women, I would have voted for that individual. So, King, to land here, I can't say how Trump or Republicans would be better for black folks because I've been a long-time Democratic voter. But the modern day, i.e. the past 4 years or so, of Biden-Harris and some of the far left-leaning voices that media and politicians and Democratic voices have elevated has turned me away, has soured my taste for this party. Now, when 2028 comes around, and if there's a dynamic Democratic candidate that they prop up, that I think is, you know what, you're a solid man or a woman. Jasmine Crockett said they've already picked their candidate and it's a man, right? Then that person will likely get my vote. Okay, so that's the best way I can answer that statement, sir.
So Nye, real quick, if I could ask you, so you pointed out what you don't like, or excuse me, you pointed out what you do like. Apparently, in your perspective, Trump is protecting women, bathrooms, prisons. Is there anything that you've seen thus far in this, we're not even a year in, that you are alarmed by this administration, that you don't agree with, that you may have potential buyer's remorse, anything in that area at all?
Well, you know what, listen, just like I think there are Democrats in this room, long-time Democratic voters, who I would like to think that you don't always agree with the policies of the candidates you support. The same goes for folks who vote for Republicans and or Trump. You don't always agree with the policies, right? I'll say this, black liberals have been saying since late last year that this administration is going to roll out ICE camps for black folks, that we're going to be put on the concentration camps and be locked up. And here we are, how many months into Trump's presidency, and I'm still free like Amistad. Where are the concentration camps, right? But no. Is there anything that I would disagree with? Listen, I'll tell you this, Moose. Every time I hear that Trump is doing something that affects civil rights or black people, I always dig a little deeper to see what the truth is, because I know the liberal-leaning media exaggerates. Let me give you an example. my boss, I work for a black man who hates Trump, and that's cool. He always sends me these stories about Trump that just are, when I read them, I'm like, this sounds insane. So then I'll dig a little deeper, and I find out the opposite is true. Just the other day, he sends me a story about, he's livid because Trump, for an example, removed the Martin Luther King bust from the Oval Office. So I said, okay, I read the story. And what the story that he sent me failed to include was that he moved it to the Oval Office, but put it into another room in the White House where he holds meetings and lunches and et cetera, et cetera. So the story that I was sent was he removed the bust altogether. That's not the case. He just positioned it into another part of the White House. Am I supposed to be outraged every time this white man removes some sort of symbolism of black history from the White House? I can't waste my energy on that because half the Negroes mad don't have black symbolisms in their own home. They pray to a white Jesus, right?
Wake that shit up. Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? So no, I'm not gonna, and then with the immigration policy, Trump said that, he's going to remove the illegal criminals. Now, I know the debate has been that some of the people that are being rounded up are actually American citizens. Do I agree with that? Absolutely not. But I do believe that folks are entitled to their due process, right? But I also don't believe that Trump is going to be successful with this push to get how many millions of illegal immigrants do we have in this country? Will he be successful in getting all the criminals out? Absolutely not. But that's also not a hill I'm willing to die on. So to answer your question in a nutshell, do I have buyer's remorse? So far, no. But again, I welcome examples from anybody on the stage or in the audience who's like, nah, did you know he did this? Did you know he's doing that? Did you know?
I got an example.
My mind changed, right?
Yeah, just one quick. I have one specific example, and then I don't want to take up too much time here, but because I don't think a lot of people know this. Did you know, to your point, that he fired, arguably one of the most decorated generals in the Air Force, Air Force General C.Q. Brown Jr., who is also the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was only the second black general to ever serve as chairman. The article in the AP Associated Press says it definitely sent ripples through the Pentagon. He was apparently this highly decorated general, impeccable record, was very vocal in his support for BLM and after George Floyd. I'm not saying that is why he was fired, but when Trump was pressed to come up with any reason, any performance issues, I mean, we're talking about this man was literally in the war room dealing with the Ukraine war and Israel while all that was going on. Like top officials advising the president, all that stuff on war. And he was plucked out early on in the Trump administration. So just things like that. And there are others also that just made people scratch their head, where he was firing high-ranking military officials who happened to be minorities who all had impeccable records. So that's something I would put out there as, did you know?
I did know that. And here's the thing. How can I say this? Because I don't want to say this as if I'm being dismissive to what you're saying, because I'm not. It is very concerning and makes you scratch your head. But you know what really made what made me scratch my head? Really? When Biden won, was it the 2020 election? And everybody was like, oh, the election was stolen, et cetera, et cetera. And see, I see the article, I'm grabbing the link, thank you. You know what Biden said? How many of y'all remember what Biden said during his victory speech? He thanked black women. He said, without black women, I wouldn't be here, and I promise you I'm going to take care of you. And that man went through 4 years and did absolutely nothing for black women. We got Juneteenth, and we got his policies. He told the schools, I'm going to hold back public schools. I'm going to hold back lunches and free lunches if you don't teach transgender ideology to the children. He gave us a black Supreme Court justice who couldn't even define what a woman is. We had a vice president who campaigned on aborting the babies, right? So these are it's like I have to pick and choose which narratives I'm going to exhaust my energy on. So I hear you, Moose, and it is disturbing. And, you know, I'm not going to defend Trump's move in doing that. I'm sure he had his reasons. And I'm not going to just sit here on the stage and say Trump is perfect and Trump is white Jesus and he's my savior. No, I voted for Trump because he said F this TQ plus IA nonsense that is driving policies out of the liberals right now and is impacting women. And I know everybody's like, but he said grab him by the pussy. Okay, and the liberals said male rapists can be housed with women in prison. Like, where do we draw the line, ladies and gentlemen? If I have to go with the policies that are not going to push us completely to perversion, right? Trump is not perfect. Biden is not perfect. Kamala's not perfect. But black people they never have any smoke for the weirdo Democratic leaders that they uplift. Forgive me, people, I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I just don't. I don't have the energy to have Trump derangement syndrome, okay? You have to remember, I know we all live in multiple timelines and multiverses. Nye McGee has already survived 4 years of Trump when he was president, okay? And my life was not topsy-turvy. I don't know any black person whose livelihood was topsy-turvy during Trump's last administration. And believe you me, here's the thing. When Trump was previously president, I had Trump derangement syndrome. I was one of those blacks who was like, listen, he's the enemy of the country. He's going to turn us into Gilead. I had black friends who voted for Trump. They had their Make America Great Again hats. I found myself deleting people from my contact list because I didn't want to have anything to do with a black person who voted for Trump. I didn't get it. And then one day, I woke up. It was long after he was out of office. I said, wait a minute, why did I have TDS? I started listening to the media and realizing, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. Then I started, again, in my capacity as a media person, working in the news media, and oftentimes when in the media, you get access and information that is not presented to the public. So I was presented with a lot of information from my folks who work in the legacy media about the real reasons why the media is pushing this anti-Trump, Trump is a racist narrative. But we don't have to go into that room, to that space today, because I don't want to derail. I don't think some of us are ready for that, right? So a lot of things kind of happened that opened my eyes, and I said, I'm embarrassed that I had Trump derangement syndrome, because I feel like I let the media control how I was thinking. I had to remember, before this man became president, everybody, including black folks, wanted a Trump check. Rappers had them in music videos. Him in music videos. Rappers were partying with him. Rappers were at his casinos. Didn't the NAACP give him an award? I think it was some black organization gave him an award. Then he ran for president, and the narrative switched to he's racist. Then you ask black folks, well, why is he racist? And they go back to, well, he and his daddy didn't want to rent to the black folks. Okay, what else did they do? Oh, well, because the Central Park 5. Okay, well, it was Democratic leaders and Democratic laws and Democratic policies that condemned the Central Park 5, knowing these young men were innocent, right? Right. Again, not excusing what I didn't even hear you, Free.
What? I said he was guilty as fuck, but I'll talk about 1 second. I was just trying.
There you go.
All right, so Free, you just lost. Okay, so that's where you're at.
That's fine. Wait till you have on it.
I just want to finish one thing. Now, I appreciate all that and all that feedback and your reasons. You know, it's not up here to judge. It really is a genuine curiosity. Yeah, and I got you. Actually, no, I brought to the attention. She said, oh my God, like what did, are there any things Trump did? And people, a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people know that black general that I mentioned was fired. Did I say? I saw your comment in chat. Of course, it's not against the law to fire him. It's within the presidential powers. But it's not like it's an Uber driver where he's just going to like grab another one to fill his spot, right? Like it's just not easy to find people that qualified, that intelligent, that experienced. 40 years of experience when you're dealing with war strategy. But anyway, appreciate it.
Well, let me just say this really quickly, and then Sig and King, got it. I mentioned this in this space the other day for those who didn't hear it. I have a relative, black male relative, older generation guy. And the other day I had posted a clip on, showing some of the protesting, the violent riots over there in LA in response to Trump's immigration and the ICE coming to arrest folks or detain people, right? And I was very alarmed by the clip showed folks standing on top of the freeways throwing rocks and bricks on the cop cars. Now, I'm not anti-police. I know some black people are. I believe in law and order. I'm glad I live in a community where if I have to call the police, they show up right away, okay? So I had posted this clip, and I'm like, man, this is really alarming. Folks are throwing rocks and bricks on the cop cars at the police's, officers' heads. This is insanity. My relative said, this is necessary when you're fighting the enemy. And I said, we have to be violent to the police to express ourselves if we don't agree with ICE. I said, so if that's your stance, if you feel like you're fighting the enemy, he said, yeah, black and brown people do this. I said, okay, well, if that's your stance, why were you so triggered by January 6th, right? Because a lot of those folks feel like they were fighting the enemy too. It goes both ways. And you know what he said to me? You wouldn't understand because you're white-minded. I said, so let me get this straight. Black and brown people can be violent toward the police and destroy the communities because they're fighting their enemy. But if white people do it, they can't. And he said, yes. And I wouldn't understand that because I'm white and white-minded. This is what I'm up against, right?
Yep.
So I'm sorry, Satan King, for cutting y'all off.
No, you're good, and it's absolutely correct, 100%. And King, another thing too is, Trump's not 100% perfect. I have some disappointments with Trump and some of his actions currently, but overall, when you talk about protecting human decency, and especially when it comes to the women, a lot of people don't understand this. The open borders policy, allowing all these illegals to flood in, not because they're illegals and we don't like them, but because when you open the gates like that, guess what? It opens up the gates as well for coyotes and these sexual human traffickers that are taking advantage of these little girls that are trying to cross the border. You know how many of these young girls are subjected to rape? And you understand too, like New York City, for example, they pump all these fucking illegals. New York City took them on with these open border and sanctuary policies. They'd only help them out for 60 days. You got 60 days to be in a hotel. We'll feed you, we'll house you, we'll clothe you, we'll give you medical care. Once your 60 days is up, you're out on the street because we got to replace you and bring in more people. Well, guess what happens to these little girls when they're out on the street with no job, no money, no nothing? They get fucking victimized, bro. These fucking gang leaders and these motherfuckers that are loving these policies, they take advantage of these little girls and subject them to prostitution, bro, and they human traffic them. So you're talking about millions and millions and thousands of young girls who, because for political reasons, you want to flood them in here to get votes and displace conservative votes. Now you're subjecting these young women to prostitution and human trafficking and sexual traumatization and victimization. Nobody ever talks about that part. Chicago's another prime example. Not sure if you saw the clips, but if you look at the Chicago meetings, there's a lot of heat. Black people have a lot of smoke for Brandon Johnson over there. Why? Because he deemed Chicago as a sanctuary city. Not sure if you heard the story, but hundreds and hundreds of black people showed up at these fucking meetings to tell Brandon Johnson about himself because these recreational post-school curricular activity areas where these black kids play football and baseball and have a positive place to hang out and have some structure outside of school, they shut that down to house illegals. They put cots in there and shit. So now these black kids were displaced from their own neighborhood and their own recreational centers where their taxpayers go to fund after school extracurricular activities. Now these black kids had nothing. Why? Because these facilities were filled to house illegals. And if you look at the illegals that they're using, they're pumping them into swing states. The swing states had the most illegal alien population increases because they're trying to displace the vote. They're trying to turn these swing states permanently blue. So when you talk about a Democratic Party that says they care for people, but then every time you turn around, their actions show they're just using these humans and don't give a fuck about what happens to them, especially black people. Like, these illegal aliens ain't moving into Beverly Hills or on Rodale Drive, brother. They're moving into black fucking poor neighborhoods and displacing black people. So I'm sorry, but as a black American, I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see little black kids not being able to go play basketball or go play baseball or go to a rec center where positive activity takes place with their tax dollars that their parents pay for, and now it's getting displaced. They're getting displaced by illegal aliens. So that's another.
CEO, what you think about what you're hearing, bro? Shout out to Sid, for real, man. CEO, what you?
You know what, man? I don't even know if I have enough words. I would defer to you, good sir. Other than disagreeing vehemently with Nia and Sig, but respecting them as moderators and humans that have experience, it's such an exhausting space to understand that this is what we believe, right? And there's just so many points. Let me just ask you this real quick, Sig. You said Detroit, right? Where do your grandparents on either side come from before they got to Detroit?
Well, my grandparents were from Detroit, but their parents, my great-grandparents, came from Alabama and Georgia.
Okay, so
my family was...
all the people that talk about Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Gary, Indiana, Baltimore, the Great Migration, last pandemic. This is a quick history lesson for all of us, right? This is around 1919, right? Coincidentally, these pandemics were 100 years apart. That's really weird. Some of the same circumstances happened, right? Because back then, what they did, they used the xenophobia to speak about your grandparents, just like you're speaking about this existing immigrants, right? They said the exact same verbiage, right? They basically said these degenerate people are displacing the good white folk of Detroit. They literally said, this is our area. They're coming to our cities. They're taking our wives. They're taking over the city. They're taking our jobs. They carry diseases. I don't know if they said they're eating cats and dogs. I got to do the research now. But pretty much everything else they said. They were criminals and so forth and so on. But that didn't stop your grandparents from migrating from the south to the north in search of a better job. But here's the reality about your grandparents that said, they weren't degenerates. They didn't carry diseases. Probably, based on your history and who you are as a good person, probably didn't take anybody's house nor their jobs. Actually, in that era, they contributed to a booming economy in the Detroits of the world, right? So imagine you parroting the information that they used to the xenophobia that they basically use this propaganda to make people hate you, to create some of the largest race riots in the history of our country post Jim Crow, right? And what I'm saying is we really have to learn history in a proper way so that we don't repeat it. So yes, I said, King, you ain't shit, man, because you got me into this. You set me up big time. You ain't shit, King. But at the end of the day, I just want to be careful, man, that when we're talking about it, that's how Trump describes these people, right? We want legal immigration. Barack Obama's good for legal immigration. There's a bipartisan immigration bill. But this notion that the Democrats just want these people to come in to vote, they can't vote. They're illegal. They don't have an opportunity to vote. So that doesn't even make no sense. I hear you. No, before you push back, hold on a second. I know this is triggering sometimes, but here's the point. Beyond litigate, let's not litigate that point. So many wonderful points here. Here's the part that I would love for you to hear you litigate, but I want to hear King speak first, if that's okay with you, Sig.
Well, I want to know, because you're addressing me correctly. I just want to be able to respond after, but go ahead.
Cool. You guys went 20 minutes pro-Trump. I'm just saying 5 minutes in the spirit of Juneteenth for the black folk, for whatever it's worth. Right? For American folk, rather. But all I'm saying is, I just hate the demonization of cultures, right? Are there some drugs that cross the border? Are there bad actors? Are there criminals? Is it illegal to cross the border? Yeah. Do Democrats want just an open border? No, right? Are Democrats looking for the fair and the competitive advantage? Let's let them all in so they can vote? No. Why? Because they don't have the ability to vote. So what I'm saying is, I just don't like the fact that we think that Central Americans and South Americans are a bunch of lewd, rude criminals that just come over to demonize and take advantage of little girls and all of that, because that's the same story they told your grandparents, and it made it hard for them. I'll just leave it there. Let me just stop there. Go ahead and please give King an opportunity to respond.
I'm gonna let him talk, but I want to address a couple things. So you said Obama was pro-immigration. No, he wasn't. You understand Obama had the nickname of deporter in chief. You remember when Alex AOC went
on
to
Fox News, not anywhere else, just on Fox News.
No. This was before Trump was even. This was his first term, bro. Obama was deporting motherfuckers left and right. This was before Trump was even talking about running for office. He had the nickname deporter in chief. So again, you remember when AOC went and cried and complaining?
Go ahead.
I didn't say, Jesus Christ, man. You talk about me and my anecdotal shit. You keep referring everything through your own personal lens. I'm not talking about what you call him or didn't. This is what the general public called him. This is a nickname that was coined to Obama before Trump was even a thought of being president.
Your general public, not mine.
This is the American general public. Deporter-in-chief was a nickname given to him by the general public because he was deporting motherfuckers left and right. And if you let me finish, when AOC was crying and whining about, oh, kids in cages, who built those cages that Democrats were complaining about? Obama. Those were built under his administration because he was getting these fucking illegals out of here. And for you to present the notion that we're trying to say illegals are dirty and diseased, and your analogy is flawed. Talking about Americans who are actual American citizens migrating within the borders of America is not the same as outsiders who are not American citizens coming in across the border free. So that's number one. Secondly, the thing, you can look and see for yourself. Look at these meetings, these city meetings, Chicago city meetings. There's video clips all over the place with hundreds and hundreds of black people. Black people in Chicago are pissed off at Brandon Johnson because of this. And their number one complaint is that they are being displaced by the illegals because he made the official declaration of Chicago being a sanctuary city. So it's just not through my lens. And we've had several rooms over the years over this CO where Chicagoans have actually come in and their boots on the ground actually in Chicago, and they're testifying to this shit that yes, they're pumping Chicago full of illegals and they're displacing black folks. We had people from Chicago even testifying that yes, the recreational facilities that were built for black Chicago kids to have extracurricular activities, they were shut down and now filled with cots and beds for the illegals that were coming in because of what Brandon Johnson did. And millions of dollars. Brandon Johnson just tried to take out a $30 million loan for the city of Chicago to allocate to the illegals, and black people showed up in record numbers to these city meetings because they were pissed off because their taxes are going to get raised, and their taxes essentially are going to have to pay back that loan that is going solely to these illegals and not going to the black residents that live there in Chicago. So this is, the things that you're saying, CO, this is part of what I was talking about. The things that you're saying are just absolutely not true, and there's abundance of objective evidence out there that people can see with their own eyes for themselves.
Let me just do this. Thank you, sir, for the civil discourse. Let me just say this really quick, right? One, right, you said that it's incorrect to compare illegals from a foreign country to illegals within the country. You actually make my point. I don't know if you do that inadvertently, because what I'm saying is the same group of power figures using propaganda discriminated against Americans the same way that they're discriminating against or demonizing illegals. That's my point. It doesn't matter if they're legal or illegal. Your grandparents were American, but they still called them by the same names because the goal was not necessarily to embrace their American citizenship, but rather to keep them out of their neighborhoods. That's the point I was making, just in case you missed that. So what I'm saying is, it's the same exact thing, right? It should be easier for Americans, but back then it was not easy. It was just as bad, if not worse, for American migrants from the South to the North. They treated them just as bad, if not worse, than they did the illegals nowadays. So you're using the same racial language that they use to discriminate against your grandparents. That's a fact, right? That's not a theory. That's not conjecture. We can do the research on that part, right? I'll just stop there and move it over to. Well, I think there was one other point that you made with Chicago, right? Let me just say that $30 million, with all due respect, is that conversation and using a facility. I have rental properties in Chicago. You just have the history wrong. I'll send some articles so we don't have to waste the stage time. The understanding that you have of how dollars are spent for illegals is different, and making the case that because black people have been incentivized to join against this "you're replacing us" theory, I agree with you. There are a lot of black people, to some extent, that don't understand the history of this language in the country and how bad it is for the country. King, would you please add your point now that you set me up, because I wouldn't plan on.
Okay, for sure. And shout out to Rosalind. I want to let everybody get in there. So for me, I'm gonna tell you why I didn't respond. See, there's a quote that says, "A good architect knows his job is done, not when there's nothing left to add, but when there's nothing left to take away." Once I heard Nod and Sig begin to defend Trump and the Republican Party, and never tell me the benefit that black people got from voting for Trump or being a Republican, I was done with the conversation right then. See, I'll be honest with you, bro.
But King, I said I couldn't defend that because I'm not a lifelong
Thank you.
Republican
That's what I'm
voter.
saying. What I'm saying is, I love you for real, but you went on a long soliloquy, and your voice is so beautiful. I mean, it sounded like Sade to me. I almost fell in love. But it's smooth operator. There you go. Shout out to Smooth Operator. But it didn't make me feel like black people were dumb per se for sticking to the Democratic Party. We said again, the short answer, black Americans started voting Democrat in the 1930s, 1960s because Democrats finally started supporting civil rights and economic help, while Republicans shifted towards conservative white voters. Why the switch? Democrats eventually backed equality. Republicans chased racist white voters instead. Right now, so Cole, after I said that, and she said what she said, bro, I didn't have nothing to say because I just don't see the benefit of black people switching to the Republican Party. And I don't believe her or Sig had great arguments or statements that were convincing enough to make black Americans switch over to the Republican Party.
But wait, brother, you do understand, my position was not to convince black people to switch over to the Republican Party.
But
I stated I'm not a Republican.
Well, you know, that was the question I asked you, though.
But I said that in my answer, though.
Okay, and what I'm saying is, even with your position and the soliloquy you went on, it was just all over the place. I think you're grasping for straws. I think the majority of people voted for Trump because they were personality voting. I don't like Kamala, but you're not going to convince me that Kamala's not a better speaker or more presidential person than Donald Trump.
Well, she advocates for killing black people. She advocates for killing black babies.
Hold on, one mic. Can I just say this? King, can I say this in response? King, I absolutely adore you, okay? I really do. And here's the thing, I want to make this clear. I am not a Republican. I was not attempting to defend Trump. I was defending my vote for Trump because it was anti-Biden and Harris. If we had a Democratic president on that ticket that was someone other than Kamala, and I'm not taking from Kamala's her career credits. I'm not saying she wasn't deserving, but when I have a woman who's advocating for abortion, when I have policies that are coming out of liberal leaders that can't define what a woman is, that wants to mutilate children through gender ideology, and when I have my community saying to me, you gotta vote because our people died for the right to vote, and if you don't vote, you're this, that, and the other. Then I said, because many of us in our community say, well, it's the lesser of two evils. I said, my vote for Trump is a vote against this loony liberal ideology. I'm not pro-Trump, but because I wanted to vote in this election, I voted against the degenerate policies that I feel were coming out of the liberal leadership. That does not mean I'm trying to convince black people to be Republican. You asked me to explain how the Republicans have benefited black folks, how Trump could benefit black folks. I made it perfectly clear. I can't say that because I'm not a Republican voter. I'm not a lifelong Republican supporter, right? So you can call it a soliloquy, sir, but it's really not as deep as some in the room may think. I'm pro-woman, and I'm not voting for any politician who cannot define what a woman is and who wants to put violent male criminals in prisons with women.
Wait. Question. I know there's other new folks on the stage. Super quick question. So you said that you are open to a Democratic candidate into the next election.
who, you know, is more aligned to the main points that you've repeatedly outlined. Governor Gavin Newsom of California has actually supported trans competing in women's sports. I believe that was one of your key points, to protect women. So would you start thinking about someone like Newsom because of a move like that and being that outspoken as such a progressive governor that he's actually said publicly that trans should not compete in women's sport?
Absolutely not, but I vote for Governor Gavin Newsom. Isn't California the same state where they tried to pass a law? I don't think they were successful, or maybe they did. I lived in California for 20 years. I moved out like 3 or 4 years ago, so maybe somebody in California can confirm or deny this. But I remember reading reports that California lawmakers were trying to pass a law that would remove children from their homes if the parents did not co-sign the gender ideology. Isn't California the state that tried to pass laws where teachers, to protect teachers who wanted to protect trans kids, if trans kids wanted to go get the, what do they call it, the sexual reassignment pills and medication and all that stuff, teachers don't have to tell the parents. If the minors came to the teachers and said, listen, I want to change my gender, help me go to the doctor to get the pills that I need to change my gender, the estrogen pills, the testosterone pills. If I want to use, don't use my dead name in school. Wasn't California trying to pass laws to protect teachers' rights to keep parents in the dark on what was happening with their LGBTQ kids? So no, I think Gavin Newsom is a fraud and a freak and a pervert. Absolutely not.
Hey, Mike, really quickly though. Gavin Newsom doesn't pass laws. He's the governor. He would sign laws, and
he does manipulate.
Well, hold on a second though. But I'm just saying, she said California, and then Gavin.
I said California lawmakers, right? And doesn't the buck stop at the governor though?
Okay, so I'm asking you, did he sign a law based on what you said?
Sir, respectfully, I did say someone in the room would have to confirm if the law was passed or not, because I remember reading about it. That's what I said. So I don't know if he signed the law, but I know the lawmakers, the politicians, were trying to get that law passed. I don't know if they were successful, which I did state that. And I said somebody in the room, if they live in the state, would have to confirm.
Yeah, can I say something right quick?
You were very articulate about your point, but just for specificity, I was just trying to understand why you were holding Gavin Newsom responsible for something that you don't know that he did. You made a case for, here's why the gentleman asked, why wouldn't you support Gavin Newsom? And he said, here's what Gavin Newsom has stood for. And then your argument was he was in California when other lawmakers worked for something that you're not sure how Gavin Newsom stood on that particular issue. On what
Gavin Newsom has been very pro-trans. Gavin Newsom, now, the example that I think Moose just gave, that's cool. But Gavin Newsom has been very pro-trans, PQ plus IA, queer, gender-affirming care. Y'all don't have to believe me, just go Google it.
Right.
Because of that,
he's trying to trip you up.
Right?
So I'm gonna say this. The issue is this, man. To sit here and use the plight of Black Americans, right, of an immoral injustice for us to fight to get our freedom and fight for all these other human rights and logical, correct rights, even though it was laws against us and we fought against those laws, to make that type of sick analogy, to sit here and say we use the same type of rhetoric. Listen here, every other country, including your own house, if somebody break into your house, that's against the law. And it is a moral law, right? That nobody should be able to break into your house. Nobody should be able to break into your country. It's against the law, and it's morally correct as well. But it's immorally correct to have Jim Crow laws and slavery. So stop using Black Americans as like a pawn. When you don't use Native Americans, why don't you ask the Native Americans how they feel about somebody breaking into in their house? But you see, nobody said a peep word about using their plight as a way. I'm pretty sure they don't want their country or the country they used to have
blood and eating other people too as well. And so if a black American sit here and say, hey, I want my resources, because it's our freaking money, it's our tax money, and your resources in your neighborhood goes to support and illegal immigrants, refugee or not, these type of programs are locally funded. That's why Chicago and Illinois is in a $2.5 million debt because of this crisis. It takes the right away and the voice away from the black Americans to say, hey, we want this. When Biden and Biden and Kamala got elected, they never said on the campaign trail, we're going to let in millions upon millions, give them complete funding from your money. No, he said, we're going to help you with COVID-19. I didn't even vote for them or Donald Trump, but to sit here and tell these blatant, disrespectful lies about these type, wait, hold on, wait a second, I'll let you speak. Right? These motors, hold on, brother. I'm done in 10 seconds. They have motors that they don't talk about.
Nathan, he's a mod. Respect the mod, Nathan. Respect the mod.
Yeah, hey Nathan, I was just trying to ask for clarity because you were going on and on. Just give me what I don't understand the disrespectful lies that you're talking about. Just give me, can you say that in a real short sentence?
That's what he done. When a person say things right and say, man, see, I love you, right, and then you see them burning out your house, right? So there's two things. That's what's happening. They speak whatever type of game, but the results are in from the Democrat Party. I don't care about abortion. Go have an abortion, but there have been 28 million black abortions since 1972. Our neighborhoods have been pretty much dilapidated, neglected, right? Then the illegals they bring in gets dumped in our neighborhoods, right? The drug, the fentanyl, all these drugs since 30 plus years. I'm looking at the end result. Whether you like it or not. Yes, but
you can't hear my voice. I was just saying you didn't answer my question for clarity. But you made, I think, the same point. I think you said you don't like illegal immigration. You think you told me the Democrats' position on it. You don't like immigration. You don't like abortion. And then you think that the Democrat has some hypocrisy. Okay, thank you for your contribution, Nation. Hey, Moose, were you saying something?
Hey, we want to give it to Rosalind.
No, I'm good. I was just wondering why he wasn't respecting the mods when that's all. But you know, I want to, you got any voices on stage?
No, go ahead, Moose. Go ahead.
Thank you, though.
But we definitely got beautiful sisters up here. Rosalind got.
No. I appreciate you, King. I yield my time.
Yo, Moose, you shouldn't yield your time, brother. You got a lot to say. I love it.
Hey, Rosalind, we'll go to you and then we'll come back to Moose. Rosalind, did you have a voice or something to add?
Sure. So many points have been made. It's hard to know where to start. I'll just make one small point, is that we seem to forget that the immigration crisis has been a crisis for 30 years. And so wherever that crisis lands, you know, it's an overwhelming crisis for the government. And what happened is, wherever the immigrants go, it's overwhelming for the city to deal with it. It's overwhelming whether they're in Texas or whether they get bused to Chicago. And so it's overwhelming for that mayor to deal with it. So it's a crisis, right? They got bused from Mayor Abbott, sent them, or Governor Abbott, isn't it Governor Abbott in Texas? He sent them to the Democratic cities, to the sanctuary cities, to cause havoc, which it did. And the mayor was scrambling to do the best he could because it was cold, and he couldn't have the people just out on the street just because they're human beings. And of course, it aggravated the Black community because that was the only place he could put them, and it busted the budgets. And that was what happened. So let's be realistic here.
Rosalind, I got a question for you, Rosalind. Like a quick question based on your logic you just presented. If my intention are to help feed homeless people, and I go around the streets and hand out cards with my address, and I say, hey, if you're hungry, here's a place you can come have shelter and eat. And I only handed out to 5 homeless people, but then they start telling their friends and start telling their friends and start telling their friends, because I've literally opened up my home to help homeless people. Next thing you know, I got 500 people show up to my door looking for shelter and food. Whose fault is that? Is that my fault or is that their fault?
Obviously, I like that analogy. Okay, let's change that. This is a government and a country, not a home, okay? So let's look at that, right? And that's exactly what happened. It's a country and a city being overwhelmed by human beings. So what would you do? You would try to scramble to keep as many of them alive as you could, right? And that's what the government is doing. That's what the mayor was forced to do.
No, you're missing my point, Rosalind. So the thing is, as a mayor, you should understand what your budget is for your city and how many residents you can accommodate. When you make the declaration that we are a sanctuary city, you have opened up the floodgates to start sending people in. Like I don't like how people would try to blame Governor Abbott. Governor Abbott, since day one, has said we don't want them here. There's a process. There's laws in place for them to come through legally, but just to pile over, we don't want them here, and we're using Texas taxpayer dollars to handle this problem. So when you have other cities, other mayors criticizing Governor Abbott, saying, "Oh, well, you're xenophobic and you're racist and you're this and that," we're a sanctuary city. We love the illegals. We want to help them out. This and that. It's common sense to say, okay, hey, I've always been on my square since day one that I don't want them here, but if you're declaring that you want them there, then fine, we'll send them over to you and you can handle it. That's exactly what happened. So what happened is Mayor Adams in New York and Mayor Johnson, they wrote a check that their city couldn't cash, and it ended up backfiring on them. And in response to that, what I mentioned earlier, Rosalind, is that if we're going to say we care about these people so much, then we don't put them in a situation where we can only temporarily house them knowingly ahead of time for 60 days, and then we kick them out on the street to, again, where these young women are being taken up by these fucking coyotes and forced illegally against their own will into prostitution in order to make money because they have nowhere else to fucking turn. So if we really say we care about people, then we wouldn't put them in a position where the long term they end up actually being victimized and put in a worse situation than what they were. Does that make sense?
Actually, no, it does not make sense. Because all these places that are sanctuary cities have been sanctuary cities for years. So no, that mayor did not all of a sudden declare that, oh, we're a sanctuary city. We have all been sanctuary cities for a long, long time. And like I said before, the immigration problem has been ongoing. And one of the reasons that Obama was deporting people is because he was trying to get the immigration bill passed. So it was a good faith effort. So what he did was, he did it correctly, right? He let people go through the process, and he was deporting people who had earned deportation, who were criminals. Like if they had gotten crimes, he was deporting them. So they had gone through a process. He wasn't just snatching up anybody and deporting them like Trump is doing. That's why it wasn't chaotic. That's why you didn't see a young woman getting her baby snatched up. If you go on Instagram, you'll see what's happening with deportation. It wasn't the same thing.
Please don't use Instagram as a credible source.
Why not? It's got video.
Because
why not? There's video evidence of what's happening with deportation. That's
so
video evidence.
Instagram is the same source that said the Maryland man was just an innocent Hispanic father that Trump just snatched up and threw him into some El Salvador prison with a bunch of gang members. And what do we find out? Maryland man wasn't this innocent man. He was actually a fucking MS-13 member. And there's body cam footage.
He was not an MS-13.
There's body cam footage. There's body cam footage of the Maryland man. The cops pulled him over. He had 6 other illegals he was trucking in from Texas to St. Louis. So we find out that when you go on social media, yeah, they'll make it look like it's innocent, but when you actually dig down a little bit deeper, these people aren't as innocent as they're made out to be.
These people are not getting due process. That's what we're seeing. All we're asking for is due process. And what we're seeing on Instagram is that the people are not getting due process. And we're seeing that the people are getting unnecessarily roughed up.
That's a lie, Rosalind. That's a lie.
That's not a lie. We're seeing
these people, Okay, so here's the thing. Here's where ICE is at. ICE is standing by the courthouses and taking these people after they see the judge. So that is due process. They're going. ICE isn't snatching these people up before they see the judge. They're waiting for them after the judge declares them that they need to leave. So ICE isn't just snatching these people up before they go in front of the judge. It's after, Rosalind. Like, you're telling lies.
No, I'm not telling lies. ICE is snatching up people. You can see at the courthouse, you can see them at the schoolhouse, you can see them in all sorts of situations. You can see any old situation, and you can see them taking babies, you can see taking children out of foster care. Children out of foster care. So you see all sorts of situations. So we can just pick them.
Yeah, Sig, what do you think about, I'm sorry if there's a queue, but Sig, what do you think about the gay makeup artist, the Venezuelan that was sent to the prison in El Salvador? What do you think about that one?
I didn't hear about that one, Ollie, so I can't speak on that one.
They never hear about it. They never.
Well, ma'am, I can't hear about everything. But did you hear what I said? I said she can post a link and I'll more than happy to read it in my face. You can't possibly track every single freaking story, man. So I was being fair and saying if she's got a link to post, I'll be more than happy to read it and then give commentary.
Well, the guy with the autism, the autism tattoo, who's sitting in a Salvador prison.
Yeah, I mean, either way, even if they are, I think that the gay one, that one really bothers me actually. But even if, like the Maryland guy you brought up, I agree. I don't think he was as innocent as they tried to paint him. Yes, I agree. But I have a big problem, and he was El Salvadorian, so that's okay. But I have a big problem with sending Venezuelans to El Salvador. Okay, I got a big problem with that. Like I don't understand how we are okay with sending Venezuelans to a Salvadorian prison.
Why are we sending them to a prison at all? Why not just deport them? Why are they going to a prison?
Because we hand them over to the government, and then that government decides where to place them. At that point, once we hand them over to the other government, it's out of our hands. But again, what Biden did, Biden actually broke the law by allowing these people to flood in the way that they did. There was actually laws on the books. Biden broke those. All Trump is doing is restoring the laws. And even if you look at Mayor Adams in New York, this is why the Democratic Party hates him, because he finally came out and admitted this is fucking nuts what we're doing over here in New York. And Mayor Adams actually came out and said, we're going to bankrupt this city. New York is going to be bankrupt. And notice how the Democratic Party, next thing you know, Mayor Adams has corruption charges pending against him from the DA in New York. So when he comes out and tells the truth and says, yeah, actually we're doing people more disservice, Democratic Party tries to sabotage him with corruption charge.
And so, Sid, which law did Biden break again?
The immigration law. There's a process that not everybody can come in here declaring asylum. You can come in here declaring asylum, but you don't just get to automatically come in. It has to be evaluated. But Biden let all these motherfuckers flood in.
No, I'm saying, but which law did he break? I'm just curious.
Allowing people to flood in. Period.
Okay, that's a lot.
How did Biden specifically allow them to?
Because he didn't have them go through the proper process. And also Democratic officials were telling these illegals what to say in order to meet the asylum prerequisites. Most of these people did not qualify for asylum. So when your party is telling these people what to say and how to lie in order to work the system and to get in, that is breaking the law, sir. Because if they answered honestly, they'd be rejected at the front door. That's breaking the law. Lying on official federal documents is actually against.
Biden didn't lie on a document. So you're just saying that. So let me ask you this one. Let's move the conversation forward a little bit. So how do you feel about? Because I think you guys made points. So basically, more of the moral ethics issues are the things that Trump brought on, like illegals, abortion,
school of choice,
Okay, let's go with that's a whole other issue right there. But I guess the point I would make is, do you think they're politicizing this issue? Because during the Trump, Rosalind made a really good point, right? This sanctuary city thing and immigration has been a challenge for 30 years. Nobody's really solved the problem. And then Trump, for whatever it's worth, in his first 4 years, didn't really solve the immigration problem. Mexico didn't pay for the wall. The wall wasn't built. Immigrants are still flooding the border and crossing over. And then we get to Biden's term, and then they work for a couple of years, and they put a bipartisan immigration bill together. The fact of the matter is, Trump preferred to run conversation, and it would benefit the party. And I think he won on these issues for whatever it's worth, right? LGBTQ, immigration, abortion, not healthcare or any other policies. My question is, how do you feel about the fact that Trump put a kibosh on the bipartisan bill that would have hemmed up the border and sent more resources and more border patrol? But Trump said, basically in so many words, don't pass that yet, because I need to keep exploiting the people, because that's a good issue for me to run on. How do you guys feel about that?
So that's not true. I'm actually in Laredo, Texas right now, right on the River Grande. Every fucking 20 feet, there's a border patrol car, and it wasn't like that when Biden. I've been here working in Texas for the last 3 years, and when Biden was in office, there wasn't a border patrol car every fucking 20 feet.
What I was saying is the bipartisan bill for immigration that we needed, right? What I'm saying is that was ready. They worked on it in caucuses for a year, 2 years, and then it was ready to pass like last spring. Trump preferred to run on the issues. I was asking specifically, he politicized it. He said, no, let's let the illegals keep coming over. That's good for me, so I can put a kibosh on it when I get there. I'm saying, how do you feel about him politicizing such an important issue to America?
I've never heard that, CEO. If you got a link or something, I'll be more than happy with it. I've never heard this. My first time here.
I would go ahead.
Homeland Security and Border Patrol is underneath the federal branch of the government, underneath its wing. When you go to the border and talk to them, they're underneath the command of the commander-in-chief at the border. He has complete command over it. He can enforce it. See, I've been to the border for 4.5 years. I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. The first time I seen it, it was probably in the first year. It was like only one goddamn security border patrol. I spoke to these people time and time again. It was directly intentional. He could have did executive order. The reason why I'm saying when I'm saying it's true, once Trump became president, he completely used executive order to correct the issue at the border without Congress or the Senate. Correct, CEO? When I'm saying this right or wrong?
Executive orders don't last.
Biden actually used executive orders.
Some specifically asking your question. Did the border get corrected when Trump became president?
Right? Hey, Nathan, hold on a second. Here's one thing I'll give you, Nathan. Trump has done more executive orders. Traditionally, what was a North Star for our government was to get a bipartisan bill passed so that these issues will last. That's just a history and protocol that's happened. So yes, Trump has done everything by executive order, but also for a comparison and contrast on this parity issue, this inequality issue, and equity, a recent judge, if you guys want to look at an article I posted, said that the NIH grants that Trump used the executive order to try to refute, deny, and defund, he said it was the most appalling example of racial discrimination in his 47 years, 48 years on, or whatever on the bench, and I was a Reagan-appointed judge. So there's a lot of things that, yes, executive orders are passing, but there's a lot of things that haven't stood the scrutiny of our legal system that Trump has tried to do that's been kicked back to him. And literally, the judge himself, Reagan judge, said the most appalling racial discrimination set of policy that he has seen in 40 years on the bench. Hey, Rosalind, were you about to say something about Nathan's point?
Let me get in there after Rosalind.
Whose voice is that?
I don't know what you do in your personal life, but if I commit murder, I'm high.
Yes, I was.
For real.
Yes, I was. Yeah, I have 2 points.
Okay, go ahead, Rosalind. Who said that, Nathan?
Yeah, brother. You like deflecting, bro. I'm a high man.
I hear you. Thank you so much, my brother. Hey, but your point was well stated, Nathan. I didn't need you to reiterate it. You've been consistent on your point. Go ahead.
Executive orders don't last, like you were saying, and you need a bipartisan bill. And James Kennedy, wasn't it James Kennedy who was the Republican leader on that bill? And he sat there and he worked very, very hard on a bipartisan bill on the border that was agreed to by both sides. And Trump was the one, just before it was time for that bill to be voted on, he kiboshed that bill. because he didn't want it to pass. He wanted to run on it. And you guys are not following politics. And then you come in here and say these things. And then during the State of the Nation, when Trump was speaking, James Kennedy sat up there and agreed that is it James Kennedy? Am I right on that? Is that the right person? I know his last name is Kennedy. He was the one who wrote the bill. And he sat up there and agreed that Trump killed the bill that he worked so hard on. It was when Biden did that State of the Union speech. And that is what happened around the immigration bill. And that bill, what was included was more people on the border, more judges down there, so that they could have sped up the process of getting people through when they claim asylum or not. And it's legal to claim asylum, they just need to be adjudicated faster. And they had more judges, more people down there. They had gone through all this stuff to solve the problem. And Trump told the Republicans not to vote on it. And that's what happened.
Hold on, let me do a quick room reset. Hold on, let me do a very quick room reset. So, healthy debates, ladies and gentlemen. JB started this room earlier. He's not in right now. So you have myself, Sig, CO, and King, and obviously, as you hear, we all have very diverse opinions and personalities about certain topics. JB opened this room to talk about Juneteenth, and that is still the topic at hand, but we've kind of deviated into other areas like immigration and policies and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Trump, Biden. And so someone suggested we change the room title. I'll leave that up to the other mods. Because I do want to keep Juneteenth centered, so we still want to come back and address the title. What does Juneteenth mean to you? Do we need holidays like this? Is it an anti-black holiday? Does it benefit blacks? Is it a racist holiday? Rosalind in the chat said Juneteenth forever, so we can, the topic at the pin at the top of the room is still the topic at hand, but we are dipping and dabbing into other hot topics as it relates to racial issues and politics. You know how we do here in Healthy Debates. And so that's a quick room reset. Anybody can come up and add to what they have already heard or introduce, kind of add to what they heard or respond to anything they heard. And whoever was speaking that I interrupted, the mic is.
I just want to say, anybody suggesting that Juneteenth is anti-black or anything is crazy. I've celebrated Juneteenth all my life. Like, this is a Texas holiday. It's never been a national holiday. Juneteenth is about the slaves in Texas finding out that they were free 2 years after they actually were free. Other states actually have their own emancipation days. So I actually didn't like the idea of co-opting Juneteenth and making it something that everybody is for everybody, because it's just not true. So I actually had a problem with that. I felt like that was something that I could legitimately say I didn't like from the Democratic Party. I don't like half of the conversation that I hear around Juneteenth. I've heard people saying some really ugly things about Juneteenth that aren't from Texas or never really celebrated it. So on that end, that's just how I feel about it. This is a Texas thing. We've been doing this. If anybody else want to celebrate it, so be it. But nah, this is a Texas thing. Outside of that, some of the things I've been hearing in regards to Biden and immigration, most of his policy, most of it, what he did was by executive order. That's why it's been so easy for Trump to do what he's doing, because these things weren't codified in the law. And again, as a lifelong born and raised Texan, I'm telling y'all this, that border issue that you said, Sig, you said you've been down there for 3 years, and 3 years ago it wasn't that type of security down there. I'm telling you that 10, 15, 20 years ago, that's how it's been, brother. The Republicans in the state of Texas are a joke. Like, they've always allowed illegal immigrants to come through our state. They've always allowed it. It wasn't until Trump came into office and, that rhetoric, that language that he used,
And then they got behind Trump with that. But Abbott and them guys, make no mistake about it, when Abbott was lieutenant governor, like, man, this is the type of shit that was going on. Dan Patrick, our lieutenant governor now, who's a fucking joke, a former sports reporter. Like, come on, these guys are jokes in the state of Texas. They need illegal immigration. Like, those farms in South Texas where you at, they wouldn't run without those illegal immigrants. So what happened with Illinois and New York, y'all failed to mention that Abbott was sending them people up there, and they inundated that city. It's not like the city of Chicago just wanted all those folks, even though I do understand that Chicago is known as a sanctuary city. I know plenty of people who, well before this, they would travel to Illinois to go get their licenses and shit because they couldn't get their license in Texas. So this has been going on. But in terms of like what happened during that period, like y'all being very disingenuous. So anybody bringing up Greg Abbott, like Greg Abbott is some kind of hero, I'm here to tell y'all, man, that this man is on the verge of being voted out. These Republicans in Texas are upset with him. White people in Texas are upset with him. So y'all don't know what y'all talking about. And I'm gonna just keep it a bean on that when it comes to Texas.
I've seen ridiculous racism in Texas. It shocked me. But Rob, no, and I do have to agree with you on some of those points you do said, Rob. But the point where I was getting at originally was once you put a sign on your city that says sanctuary city, like Abbott wasn't sending these illegals to Chicago and New York before, bro. Like I said, the analogy I gave earlier was once I put a sign on my house saying, "Hey, we feed the homeless here," and I only have enough money to feed 5 homeless people, but 500 show up. Like, I gotta blame myself for putting that sign up, bro. So, notice Abbott didn't send illegals anywhere else. He only sent them to the mayors that were most adamant about being a sanctuary city and criticizing him about his mistreatment of, human beings and infringing on human rights and shit like that. So he said, fine, all right. If I'm such a bad guy, and you're claiming you want to take care of them, then fine, you have them and you deal with them. But what we saw is both cities crumble once that happened. So, you gotta blame those mayors. If they hadn't opened their mouths, none of this would have.
So, Sig, to that point, do you think it was a good move when Abbott's loaded up buses of immigrants and sent them to D.C. as an FU to Harris? I believe it was December. Did I just get muted? I don't know if it was Norm here. Maybe Norm muted me.
My bad. It was an accident. I didn't like what you were saying, but.
Thanks, JB. Yeah, I was just curious if that's a good way of dealing with it, sending these folks with no hotels ready, with nothing, with like no officials in the city that he's sending them to, literally just leaving them stranded. With no shelter, essentially, just literally as a political FU to Harris. Is that the best way to handle the immigration problem?
Yeah, absolutely not. And I don't like that these people were used as political pawns. So that's the one place I think we can agree. I don't agree with how Governor Abbott handled it, but I understand why. But I'm with you. I don't agree that he used these people as political pawns with the move.
JB, you disagree with that? Because is that why you muted me? You think that was a good move by Abbott?
I was just busting your chops. Happy Juneteenth.
I got you, brother. Happy Juneteenth.
Hey, can I ask y'all this?
Hey. Before we distracted, JB. Black people distracted. We talking about Greg Abbott. Fuck a Greg Abbott. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how niggas is happy to get a holiday where they can eat some fucking barbecue potato salad and then have the audacity. JB, this is what I asked them. What do black people gain by voting Republican? What have we gained under Donald Trump? That's what I asked the people, right? So I hear the brother C talk about illegal immigrants. And the brother Cole said, they looked at your ancestors as immigrants as well. And some of the things they said about immigrants, the same thing they said about black people. So I had to do my research, JB. I looked into Dred Scott decision, 1857. A landmark and infamous U.S. Supreme Court ruling that declared what, JB? Black people, free or enslaved, were not U.S. citizens and could never become. citizens. I need you to hear this, Jay. Because as I sit on your stage, I hear brothers, a lot of brothers that like to deny